What's up? It's your boy Matty here with my best friend Chris Miller.
So this week's episode of the Hydrated Mind podcast, we have the GOAT, Lisa Ann, and we talk about all kinds of stuff that you probably wouldn't think we would talk about with the #1 porn star of all time.
The greatest. Sweetest lady I've ever met in my life.
We get into a lot of deep conversation with her, but one of them being she got a death threat from her inside of her own house. We go through that. We do talk about sex with her, but in a professional way. How people can be better with their partners. Yeah, it was just such an awesome conversation.
Super wise. Really grateful to have her. So stay tuned.
A lot of tips on success with her too. That she's just she's
not a quitter.
Transitioning careers to being successful in multiple fields.
Pivoting.
Being a Sirius XM radio host to and just as famous as she is. A lot of wisdom. So, Lisa Ann on this week's Hydrated Mind. That's
dude.
That's my laugh.
Yo. Huh? Matty, bring us in.
Can
you turn my headphones up? Yo, there you go.
It looks.
Let's go, Matty.
That purple in the back.
Bust it out.
It's all smoky. It's like a
blues.
CD
Blues.
My mic was down. Turned the smile upside down to a frown. Let's go.
This is what I arrived here for. Thank you.
Lisa Ann in the house. Let's go.
Only flight not canceled too.
So we were chatting before the cast about, again, Lisa Ann in the house. Can we get a, yes sir.
All the fans outside.
Turn me down a little bit, Matty. There you go.
How's everyone's headphones feeling?
Yeah, sound check. Everyone's good.
Give me a little more.
Yeah.
So
First time I want.
legend in the building.
Oh, too much?
Absolute legend.
Yeah,
I have so many stories I can't wait to get into. Like, you've had private security since you were 18. Like, your whole life. I want to get to that, but we were talking about New York. No, I do. Because I was like tripping me out. Like, I called her last night and I was like, yo, we can have like UFC guys here.
You'll get the understand of how I actually roll when I'm not traveling or doing something. Like, I just kind of roll in past tense. So when my friends and I go out to eat and everything, they know, like, we're not posting anything live while we're here if we don't have security, so people don't just show up. Like, let's just live in this moment. We'll take a ton of photos, whatever. But then when we get home, when I lock my door, I text my friends, you can post now.
Hey, that's a PSA for all of you influencers.
Seriously.
We know a couple that have big followings and it's always live where they're at. And I'm like, you're going to get kidnapped, B.
You are going to get kidnapped.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like always like on your
never
phone,
paying
have
attention.
No idea.
Right, not
No
being
awareness.
aware. And for a long time, I couldn't get anyone to cover security for me. So I would have to hire security from the club. And sometimes that guy was like the guy that you would want security from.
Right.
And that's the random guy that picks you up at the airport. And you're like,
hey, Mom,
oh,
this is Chuck.
shit. I'm in the car with this guy now.
Matty, up a little.
I don't know if he has a driver's license. I don't know what his deal is. He's going to protect me. He's going to know where my hotel is. This is scary.
Oh, God.
So I just live in I'm very aware. So I never drank or partied on the road.
Yeah.
I never let my guard down. And I made it.
You're a fucking gangster. I can't wait to talk about that.
Philly life.
So we were talking, dude. Yeah. So I'm from Philadelphia. My family is. She's obviously. Did she tell you she's from Pennsylvania?
No, well, family's out of Pittsburgh.
And Huntington Beach, which is the first place I lived in California.
You guys are best friends, besties.
And
so
Philadelphia, Easton, very close, Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
So we're talking about New York. Funny story about Geen the Queen.
Queen
I love New York. Lisa currently lives in New York City. I love New York City. I've done stand-up comedy there. I've performed at Chelsea Theater or the Gotham Theater. And I just love New York. I'm a huge fan. I love New Yorkers. I love the city. I love the hustle and bustle. I also love that you can, I would ask you, like, you can be famous there. No one cares.
Yep, no one cares.
Yeah, like you can walk down. Nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit. They're not going to give you clout. They don't want to feed your ego. You're not butting in line.
People are also too fucking busy.
Fuck you.
Yeah, people are too fucking busy.
I don't care who you think you are. Get back in the back of that line. I love it. I love it.
So we go to New York, and I was excited to get Gina there because I'm such a fan of the city. And we get there, and I'm like, so the first day we go out to Long Island, which was it Long Island?
Yeah, because I wanted to see the Amityville house.
So we went and saw the
That was
Amityville
like my
house.
only goal.
What a trek.
In New
Like,
York.
what a trek. She should have looked at the grid of the island and just, because it's a lot of traffic. Get out. You took a train?
Oh, yeah.
Even scarier.
No,
You
the
know,
first day we were in a
I
car.
was like, don't fall asleep. Stare at me. Don't let anybody look at me.
No, that was hold on. So Amityville, we went to the CrossFit thing, which sucked. Came back on the train through Jamaica, Queens.
Right.
And we stopped in Jamaica and she was falling asleep and I was like, don't go to sleep. Like,
Not here.
yeah.
I was like,
and she goes, what do you mean? And I was
picking it. I'm like, oh my God. Because I was so tired, but I'm also terrified because if you can't even blink there. Like I thought parts of LA were bad.
Yo,
New York's rough.
And they're waiting for you to fall asleep. It's not that it's
Right.
rough. It's that you're providing an opportunity. You are laying out the
You
red
let it
carpet.
happen.
Let me take her book bag. Let me just reach in her purse. She's
Yeah.
not going to know.
Yo,
She
it's
won't
rough.
either. Little beach girl has no clue.
So we on one of the last days, since I'm a foodie and I like to eat, which is obvious,
Foodie
I
alert.
take up the whole frame. It's not because he zoomed in. It's just
It's the
I
focal
take up the
length.
whole fucking
It's
frame.
a wide angle.
We just zoomed out really far from
a lot of
Miss
lens-
Lisa over here.
Can we get a new camera?
distortion
I look
going on.
super
This is
tight.
horse shit. Can I get a better angle down? So I was like, you got to go to a New York deli and get a sandwich. Like it's like part of what you do in New York, so outside of pizza. And I was like, well, let's go to Katz's.
Get a fucking Reuben, bro.
You calling me a douche, bro?
Yo, you want fucking Reuben?
You coming at me, bro?
Hey, no.
Coming at you.
So we get in the cab. She gets car sick in the cab because the guy, New York cab, he's like, if you've never been to New York City and you don't take a cab, you're missing out on part of the New York experience. which is
wanted to miss out on it.
Life-threatening. No, it's like,
It's
this guy might rob
death-defying,
me.
and I love it. It's like I don't do roller coasters, but every once in a while
Because
you
you
live
dig
in New
and want
York,
everyone-
get that
yeah.
cab driver, and you're like, oh, this motherfucker's gonna shave like 7 minutes off this ride, and I'm gonna enjoy. But you can't be looking down at your phone because it'll make you car sick.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
take cabs
Can't-
anymore?
I do. I love taking cabs because they don't give a fuck about you either.
Yeah.
And there's a vested interest. You could hop out before you pay. You could hop out at any red light you want before you pay.
Yeah.
So I feel like we both equally fear each other, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
That's a
Uber,
good
they have
point.
your credit
Respect.
card. They can just drive around and say they didn't drop you off yet.
Good point.
Cab driver, he's talking to his friend in a different country, in a different language.
Those guys are so talented.
But man,
They're having
they're
their-
flying around, honking. They're terrorists. I
Fucking
love it.
Fucking
Terrifying.
intense.
I love it.
And then there's no visual because the buildings are so high. There's
Yes.
no horizon. So I'm like, like freaking out, panicking. I'm
So, yeah.
sweaty already. And
So we
it's
went
winter.
to, and again, another New York thing. If you've never been to Canal Street, I love Canal Street, but you got to be careful down there. It's a gritty part of town. It used to be where Gangs of New York. That's
Yeah.
where really gritty.
Bill the Butcher lived?
Bill the Butcher, yeah.
Yep.
Who goes?
Get to Canal Street. I'm trying to warn her. I'm like, yo, as soon as you get out of the car, it's going to be hectic. People are going to be sweating you for all kinds of stuff. Like, just be careful. As soon as we get out of the cab, this lady just jumps off a scooter. Like, she jumped off the back of a scooter.
She was like on me.
And she was like, had a bag in her face with a menu. They have menus. And she was like, you buy bag. And Gina's like, dude, I don't want a bag.
And I'm just like, I'm
It's
frozen.
hardcore.
Like, I couldn't even say anything.
You buy
I'm just
back.
You buy
No,
bag
and
now.
the way they come at you, you don't understand. It's you buy a bag. Like they're like
Why are you
threatening
yelling?
you. You know what I mean?
and like shoving
Why
the
are we
menu.
fighting?
And it's the cheapest looking knockoff. Like I don't want your cheap ass Gucci.
Ooh.
It's the worst
Find me a
knockoff
better one and
ever.
we
You
can
know?
Can you
talk.
send me one of those little Louis Vuitton backpacks knockoffs? I want one
They're
so
kind of,
bad.
if you're trying to flex though, and you want to spend $20 and like,
You got to know where to buy them though, because some of them look really cheap and
I
they have a
sw-
weird smell.
I want one for my
I
insulin.
smell them. That's how I know how cheap they are. I
you
smell
just see
them.
me
Lisa
one
Ann in one of
because
those
I was
fake
like, take-
bodegas
I'll
in a
take it.
meat locker smelling
Yeah.
bags, just like this.
These
I
sneezy
just-
smell weird, dude.
I smell like yeah. That's
They're on their walkie-talkie,
Come
like,
on.
get this bitch
Okay, so
out.
this woman's in your face and you're losing it. How did you calm her down?
So I didn't. I was just letting it happen
He's
because I thought it
laughing.
was
He thinks it's
hilarious.
hilarious.
But I'm like already bartering with her and then yelling at another guy. And that was the week they had like color coded umbrellas. So they'll use like
Yep.
different codes.
Yep.
And we ended up buying a bag because I was like, this is awesome. So
It
we
actually
bought a
looks
bag.
really good, but I didn't pick it because I was like, I'll take the first thing you show me. Just let me go. And so he picked. I'm like, oh, this fucking looks
I was like,
real.
I have $10 cash. That's all. You can have it or not. And
And you can always barter with them too.
oh yeah, hard.
Always barter. You tell them this is all I got. You either take it or you don't, and they'll take it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
then they just throw a trash.
so she
bag
gets
at you.
overwhelmed with that. So she's already like freaked out. And then I'm like, all right, we got to jump in the cab and go to Katz's. Because
Yeah.
it's such a landmark.
It is.
Where Harry met Sally.
Yes.
I mean, it's just so legendary.
Yes.
So I'm like, let's go to Katz's. So we get in the cab, another crazy cab ride. She's like, gets out, dry heaves. I'm like, I drag her inside.
All you want to do is order a sandwich after you're nauseous.
yeah, exactly, or get yelled at.
Right. So Katz's was super busy, and she gets in, and she's never been to a New York deli where, like, if you don't assert yourself and go, yo, I need this.
You're not getting anything.
So she's standing there, and some guy goes,
Old lady pushed me out of the way. I was like, yes. She like pushed me and got in front, and I was like, oh my
She
God.
knew that you didn't know what's up, and she knew what was up. She wanted her
Yeah,
sandwich.
she was like, came at my, like, she was
trying
like
to
hip
get a
size too. I was like,
sandwich.
oh my God.
Meanwhile, I'm like so excited that we're at Katz's Deli that I'm just like firing away. I'm not thinking about her like a dick. And some guy finally just goes, what do you fucking want,
He goes,
lady?
do you want a fucking order? I'm like,
Yes, it's so New York.
I do.
and I just froze. I was like, no. And then I'm trying to leave. He goes, you can't fucking go out that
You
way.
know how you have
I'm
to
like,
show the ticket to get out?
And I finally lost. I was like, I just want to get the fuck out of here. And then he like stopped and he was like, oh, okay, go this way. I'm like, oh my God. I'm just standing outside, like frozen. I'm like having a panic
Full
attack.
panic
He
attack.
comes out, he's like, oh, it's the greatest sandwich I've ever had. I'm like, did you not see what fucking happened? My life almost ended by an old lady and a deli guy.
Who just
you're
wanted, she just
enjoying a
wanted pickles
Reuben.
too. She
Don't
just
forget the
wanted her
two cab
pickles.
drivers that really wanted to get in
And
as
then-
many rides as possible that day. Because that's what they're doing. The 7 minutes they shaved off of your each ride gets them 10 more rides a day. That's why they hustle
my
so hard.
God.
They run a couple of lights. They're grilling their tires. They're
Yeah.
pulling in their side mirrors when they have to, when they know they're getting super close. I'm like, do all of it.
I've seen
Do
people.
all
I've
of
seen
it.
people get hit with a cab in New York, and nobody stopped.
But they honk at that guy because clearly the guy walking needs to move the fuck out of the way. They're like mad at that guy. I mean, his leg's broken.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, he should have fucking moved. That's New York to me. It's like no one gives a flying fuck.
Shit about anything.
It's
I
the
was
greatest
intense.
place for me to hide.
Why'd you pick New York?
So I was going back and forth. I had a studio there, a little studio apartment for a couple of years. I got it in 2013 when I started working for Sirius. And Sirius XM studios were right across the street from the apartment.
It's a long
And
commute.
right across the street.
aggressive.
Like I knew I didn't want to rely on cabs. I didn't want to take the subway because I wouldn't feel safe. And also I wanted to experience being in that energy of the studio, being available to do more shows, and just getting to know what it was like to operate in that. And I worked there for 7 years and used that studio for a lot of it. And so that's what got me there. And I would stay, and at that time, my grandfather and the woman that was closest to me, Peggy, who I wrote about in my book, they were both in a nursing home, and I could easily take a bus from New York City to Easton, Pennsylvania.
Wait, so no subway, but the bus.
Because the buses go to PA are nice, and they have Wi-Fi, and I would sit right behind the bus driver.
Congress
listen,
guys ride those.
I love the whole not having a car, the responsibility of driving. So I would just like read or do whatever, but I could get dropped right at one nursing home right off the bus. So I could hang there till somebody could pick me up and take me to the other home. And so for 3 years, their last 3 years of their life, it was really important for me to be accessible like that and be able to get there.
so that was why
easily.
you went to New York, was the family.
Sirius, for Sirius XM, and at the same time, my
Were you in
grandfather
LA
begging.
doing Sirius? Were you commuting?
I never used their studio in LA until later on, and then I bought my own device so I could do my shows from home.
Oh, okay.
But when I went
No
through
commute.
everything that I was writing about in the new book, during that time I was so afraid to leave my house that I set up a studio in my house so I could do my shows from home. But New York just has this energy and this ability to feel like you aren't the center of attention. You don't
not.
matter. You are just another person making it work. And I also feel like people aren't creeping on me like they did in LA. People walk down the street. So I shot content the other day with some guys from Florida that I was just on their podcast, and they came up to the city and they're like, hey, can you do a bit of content with us? I said, all right, 2 hours. And we're walking around, and everywhere we go, people recognize me, but in New York, they're just like, yo, Lisa, what's up? In
Yo.
LA,
Hey, yo.
yeah, yo, Lisa, what's up? And I'm like, yo,
It's
yo,
almost
yo.
like-
And I keep
like
walking.
It scares you, like, yo, Lisa.
And they
What's
were,
up?
And they were laughing about it. I'm like, but you don't understand. We're both walking in different directions, and that person has to be somewhere.
Yeah.
They're not going to miss their train to
Right.
get a photo with me.
Right.
This is New York life.
No, because New
Not-
York's also like, if you miss your connecting train,
fucked.
yeah, it's like 3 days later.
You're fine. Yeah.
Looking
hold
for
on.
that in LA too. They're like looking for people to like collect and take a picture with.
Yeah.
Yeah, LA
So-
is all about being seen, and
Yes,
New York
it is.
not.
In New York, you can go around just like totally covered up too to blend in, like baseball cap, like Mask Life. Was
Right,
great.
right.
Yeah, Mask Life was like my friend
Anywhere.
Yeah.
because nobody recognized me. I talked to everybody during Mask Life, but I can just blend in.
Yeah.
I wear like these hideous fisherman pocketed vests in the summer.
No, you don't. Did you bring one?
Yes.
I didn't bring one, but I'll take pictures of them this year. I have it in every color because in the city
we
you don't
fill
want
them
to
with
carry a
Where do you
purse.
even get one of those?
Yes.
You don't want to Amazon. You don't want to carry.
Send me the link.
You don't want to carry a purse in New York. You learned that. You do not want to have things, external things. Nope.
Yeah.
So you want everything in your pockets. You want it all accessible. So, and they cover my boobs and my butt. My thing is, I don't want my butt showing because people will check out your butt, right?
Yeah.
Dudes will still
Well,
catcall.
still in the fisherman
I got
vest,
the fisherman
though.
vest, right, covering my butt, covering me, and my
That'll throw 'em off the
pockets loaded.
scent.
I look so homeless. So homeless. Even my doorman, when they see me like that during
You're
the
like,
day.
you're not allowed in here.
And then at night, I'm dressed up to go out with my friends. They're just like, they just shake their head. They're like, it is so different.
Who are you?
You clean them nice.
That's me trying to survive on these streets during the day running my fucking errands. This is me trying to
I
go
just
out with
want
my
to go to the
girls.
grocery store.
Do you miss LA at all?
I get to go back every other month.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky. My neighbors that I lived next to since 2005, their daughter is my best friend and my assistant. She's like a sister to
Oh,
me.
nice.
And they let me stay with them. So it's like I'm living in the
fun.
identical townhouse that I used to live in. So it's so bizarre. I go all the way back home and I'm in the same neighborhood. We take walks in the same neighborhood, eat at the same places. So I go back easily because, when you don't have to get a hotel, you can go back more often. And so I
totally.
do go back every other month.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for 3 days, I go back.
Yo, so you moved to New York, and then when I first met you on the phone, which by the way, we've been, another story about Lisa, and it's so
pals.
good to finally see you in real life and hug you and get to see you. You're such a sweet person. And all the things you did for us, even coming out here, like signing books and sending us little gifts, and you're just a sweetheart. And when I first met you, you took photos for us, and I didn't even know you were going to do it. And I was like, wow, that's fucking amazing. Like I was just,
remember that.
I was so attracted to you that way in terms of like, what a great just gesture of, what a great person. Do you know what I mean?
Sent me product.
I know,
and
but
I
like-
feel a responsibility to that to show you the respect to thank you.
No,
I don't accept
yeah.
product from most people. People be like,
Can
"Hey,
you
I want
talk
to
to some
send
of
you
my
shit,"
influencers?
and I'm like, "Don't send me shit because I
Yeah.
don't want to take pictures in it." But if I accept
yeah.
and get something, I want to share, and I love the product. So
Yeah. It was just
to me,
so-
that
it was
just seems
so
normal.
nice.
But I guess to everybody, it's not.
It's not. And
It
then
was like shocking. I'm like,
And then
these are for us? Like,
yeah.
we get to keep
Yeah,
them?
I was
You
like,
get to use
wow.
them, of course. Of course.
A note to all you influencers out there: you should clip this. Add value to brands and people first, and then ask for shit. Stop asking for. You're not that cool. You're not.
Yeah.
This is a legend, a living legend, and she just added value, and it's going to pay dividends. Add value to people and brands before you put your hand out. You know what I mean?
You actually ruined it for a
Other
lot of-
ambassadors,
because
yeah,
we would
or
have
people in
people
general.
afterwards that were asking for so much, where I'm like, yeah, but newsflash,
Yeah. So
this
our favorite-
celebrity just did this because she wanted
On
to.
goodwill.
Yeah.
It's just goodwill. I'm
Yeah.
building relationship. Look where I am right now. I'm sitting with all of you in person.
Yeah.
We're spending the weekend together. That's because I put goodwill forward when we started interacting.
it's a secret to life. Add
it
value
is.
to the world and to other people and to organizations, wherever you work, wherever you're at, add value and it'll come back tenfold. So I was obviously a fan before that. And I was like, man, we're all going to be in LA. I'd love to meet Lisa Ann. And I sent you this email. And now reading your book, I know it was during like one of your roughest times. And I sent her this email and it was kind of cute because I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't want her to think I'm like fucking creeping
Creeper,
out
right.
or like,
Hey, I want to see you in
no, but you were so nice and we had emailed back and forth and I was like, hey, we're all going to be in LA. I was very clear, like, hey, the whole team's here. Would you be down to come meet us at Fit Expo or like, we have a big villa and knowing now why you ghosted me, I was like, oh, she ghosted me. Did I blow this? I was like, oh, she thinks I'm being a fucking creep.
You were so afraid. You're like, I think she.
I know. I made her read it like 5 times. I'm like, I don't want her to think I'm being an asshole.
Meanwhile, I was just really locked in my place during that time frame and not I was not checking emails. I was not going out of my house. That was my most feared time in my life.
Wait, so can we transition into that? You had, it's so crazy. When I first called you to come out here, I told you when I first picked up your second book, one of the main, or even on the back, I think, that you got a death threat from inside your own house.
Mm-hmm.
Can you?
It was New Year's Eve. I had a friend staying with me. It was right after I retired
In
from
LA.
the industry in LA at my house.
What year was
there.
this? 2017, 16?
So this was 2014 going on to New Year's Eve of 2015. And I had a little beef going on with somebody in the industry. There was something that had transpired. I had tweeted, I didn't tag the person in the tweet, but I did tweet my opinion, and we
Was
know.
this the end of your first one, your commentary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that person went nuts and shared a lot of my information, which makes sense later.
What do you mean,
but it
shared
didn't
it like on the internet?
Yeah.
Oh, shitty.
which makes sense later, but didn't make sense then. So here we are. I had my boobs reduced. That was the first thing I did when I retired. So I paid for it 6 months before I was retiring because I was like, okay, at that time I was like a 38D.
Oh my God.
And I was a fuller figured girl because they always wanted us eating and they wanted us curvier. And then I changed my diet a bit and my lifestyle. And even after getting my boobs reduced, now they kind of still look big because I'm so much smaller.
Yeah.
But that was my first plan. So I'm medicated.
I should get my boobs reduced.
I'm laying on my couch.
Yeah, send
My
me your guy.
girlfriend's sitting there with me, and she's a younger friend. I have a lot of younger friends. So of course, you feel responsible for younger people. And I see my cell phone ring, and and my landline is the caller ID number. So I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not answering this shit.
Wait.
Your landline called
Can you
your cell
burp us a
phone.
bit?
Yeah.
So
That took me a second. I was like, I think she's
yeah,
okay.
burp the room. It
does that
means
mean?
just open the door.
Oh yeah, great. So it's getting hot.
Yeah.
I thought he was
that's a
talking
great-
about you. I was like, that's something she would tell you.
Go pat him on the back real fast.
That's a great term. I love that.
So wait, so you're on your cell phone and you get a call from your landline.
Yep. And I see my landline come up.
You had a landline?
Okay, wait, let's touch on that for a second.
Ew, gross.
I will tell you, in the building where I lived, and this was pre me being the HOA president and making some major
You were
changes.
not the
I was the HOA
Whoa, I just
president.
fell in love. I
Okay,
love a
I
rule follower.
was
You
the
were
HOA
a Karen.
president. Okay, but we had to have a landline to buzz people in the front door. The building was built in the '90s, and they didn't want to set it up to cell phones. We had a horrible president, but I stepped in to make sure. But
That was an amazing save.
so.
Love a rule follower, by the way. Love a rule follower.
So I see my landline show up on my cell phone, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this.
Wait.
I'm not answering.
So the minute,
Were you in
the
your
second
room?
it happens,
We were in the living room, but it was a 4-floor townhouse. So we had a landing with a small bathroom on one floor and then my master bedroom above us. And we had 2 more floors below us, the basement and the 2 spare bedrooms. So knowing that, I don't know where this person could be, but I
Where
know
was
they're
your
calling
friend?
from my land. She was sitting on the chair. We were on a
Okay.
sectional.
That's what I was gonna say. You didn't.
Sitting
You weren't
right
like,
there.
oh, my friend is calling me.
Oh no, we're sitting right there. So I immediately panicked.
Hold on,
and
this is like scary movie shit. So you're sitting there with your friend eating popcorn and watching a movie. And
we're watching J-Lo. It was the New Year's Eve special. We were watching it on the East Coast feed. I was heavily medicated for my surgery. So I was also like extra nervous because I wouldn't be able to handle a situation if it came up, right? I was so...
Wait, and can I just add color? So prior to this, reading the book, you were already getting like death threats. And I mean, you have a long career of people like fucking with you. But during this time specifically, you were getting like death threats and threatened a lot.
I was getting harassed. This was the first official death threat. This was the first, like, I'm leaving the voicemail that I'm going to come to kill
Fuck.
you.
So, okay, so you're sitting there and the phone rings. You're like,
phone
that's
rings.
from it. Do you like grab her? And
I
you're like,
see the landline come up and I'm like,
what do you, what do you immediately think?
I immediately think I've got to put us both in front of my cameras for my security system, hit the panic button, get the cops here. That's what I immediately think.
Jesus Christ.
So I put her in front of the cameras, which is down 1/2 flight of stairs to the main door to the hallway.
Wait, you made her go down the steps and she did it.
I did. We both went there, but I wanted her in front of
How
the main
terrifying
camera.
was that moment? I was just like
She
going down
didn't
the
know what was happening, so she wasn't as terrified, but I told her not to speak because at that time I was worried somebody was actually inside my house.
Guys, think about that. That's terrifying. That you had
Also,
a landline.
the fact that you
no, that somebody
that you had the wherewithal to not scream, react. It
Nothing.
was like silence.
Nothing, okay?
Oh my
Wait, that's a good observation.
Now I leave
But
her
how
in front of
terrifying
the
is that?
camera and I go back upstairs to my kitchen to get a butcher knife because I'm like, if there is a motherfucker in here, I'm going. Okay, I'm not taking.
Come
I'm
at me.
going. So cops arrive on a New Year's Eve. In like less than 7 minutes. Like it's early.
LA.
It's like 6. We're watching the East Coast feed of the 9. So it's like 9 p.m. or something. It's early, but they're all young because that's probably a rookie night, right?
Yeah.
New Year's
Right.
Eve, all the veteran cops that I may know from my neighbor, they're all young. These are all kids. So of course they all know me right away.
Fuck.
Fine, that's fine because at least
you're
they
like,
know
can
what
we
I'm up
focus
against.
on this?
Right.
So, a ton of them come in, 7 or 8 of them come in and they want to split up. Right away they ask you, they know the floor plan. They know that there's this many floors. They know that they're going to split up me right away. they're not taking their shoes off. You know what I'm saying? I don't let people wear the shoes in the house. They're in the shoes right away. I'm like, oh my God, the shoes.
So now that they're there, your panic is like,
Get the fuck out. I'd rather die than you wear your shoes in my house.
God damn it.
They get there, they keep 2 in the doorway with me and my girlfriend to listen to the message. This person actually left a message. So this was the first time
Can you say guy or girl?
was a guy, and he said, I'm coming downstairs to kill you on your couch.
Oh my fucking God. How did he do?
What the fuck?
How did he do the call? Just some trick
So
app?
it's just like what telemarketers use. It's a spoofing app that allows you to generate whatever number you want to call somebody from. It's a computer. It's an app. Anybody can do this. That's why most of your scam calls will come from whatever your area code is.
Oh, yeah.
So that they think it's your friend. But when you don't live in that area code anymore, it's
Right.
even funnier. You're like, wait, fucking Burbank. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
in
like,
New York.
Can
really,
you put 911 in
714?
it? I want to call everyone from 911.
Is your refrigerator running?
So the
Plastic
cops,
stuff.
the
Hold on,
cops
so-
ran floor to floor through every room, checking in on the walkie-talkies with the 2 cops
Yeah.
that were downstairs with me and my girlfriend. And they're going through this. They get down to my basement, and one of the cops yells, "Is there anybody supposed to be down here?" And I realized
Even he was afraid. He's like, I'm not going in the basement.
I was like, "Oh my God!"
It's scary.
I have a life-size cardboard cutout of Shaquille O'Neal in my basement, and they're gonna fucking shoot through my neighbor's wall right now. I'm like, there's a cardboard cutout, Shaquille O'Neal. Don't shoot him. By the way, rest in peace. We had to fold that bitch up and put it in the trash. We could not have that. That cop's almost shot him.
When did a killer ever be hiding in a basement and a cop was like, anyone down here? And he was like, you know what? I am. Like, fuck, you got me.
It's me.
No, just like,
Yeah.
nobody.
No one.
No one's down here.
So once they checked the property, they sat down with me and they told me how this goes. And it was one of these life-changing conversations. One of the officers said to me, so you've lived here for 10 years. We've never had a situation like this with you before. We're aware that there was a tweet that went out between you and another porn star, and there's somewhat of a beef now. And what we call this is mental warfare. Most likely, nothing is ever going to happen to you. But
Okay, bye.
this is going to be a test of your life, your patience, your fortitude. This person is going to get their fans.
You're saying this
and the
cop
cop's
said all
telling
this
me
to you?
this, yeah. He's like, mental warfare. And he was in my face, like, can you handle mental warfare?
Not in the
That's
seal.
Chris's management
what are you,
style.
my fucking life coach?
That's
Mental warfare.
Work at Koios. Mental warfare.
Yeah, you should try to work here. That's a daily thing.
Wow. So are you just like in that moment though, are you like, did you want to bust the cop's balls at all? Were you like, dude, that doesn't help me? Were you like more terrified?
It actually did help me. It helped me a lot because bringing out all of these facts, we haven't had this type of a situation with you here before. We are aware of you having a beef with another porn star. We are aware how this has escalated. And they asked me, she's been to your house, right? Fuck. And I said, yeah, why? And they're like, well, how would this prank phone caller know that you even have an upstairs? You could live in a 1-floor house.
Right.
Like, this is somebody that knows you, fucking with you. It's not going to end quickly. It's going to be painful. We've seen these things go on for people for years. And these are all the things that you need to do. These are the things you need to be prepared for. You need to tell all of your neighbors to make sure they don't buzz somebody in. You need to do this. You need to reach out to this detective and start saving notes. And that was just the beginning. I got hundreds. I changed my phone number so many times that eventually I just stopped changing it. My landline. But if you don't have a landline and you call 911 and your cell phone isn't registered to your address, you're kind of fucked. So the landline was valuable. At that time, there was a fire department right across from me in Studio City, and I could use the fire panic button when I was scared too, and they would come over.
Oh, that's nice.
I did everything I could because I needed people to go through my house on the regular. Like, I would get home and just be too afraid. It was too big of a place, and I was scared that somebody actually was in my closet.
So can we back up to the part that made you like leading to that point? You already had some trauma that got you to that point where you were just like freaked the fuck out. And what was all that?
The beef, or just in general, feverish masturbators taking it too far and building a one-way relationship with me and thinking I should be on the other side of that relationship.
Wait, hold on. That was a
And you
lot to
weren't?
swallow.
That's weird.
That might be our new company name.
There was people who
You didn't buy
I own the fucking domain.
Let's go.
to what?
Feverish masturbators. I I also own creepersgonnacreep.com
Oh, wow.
and creeperconversations.com.
Fucking hero. Oh my god.
Yeah, feverish masturbate. Because
Wait, so dudes would find where you lived and then like jerk off out in front of your house?
it wasn't really finding where I lived, but it was that level of obsession that you knew was going on around you could really make you feel pressure, even from social media. Certain people that would come at you so strong, and maybe you'd block them, and they'd come back at you, and they'd say things like, wait till I'm in your house when you get home. And even though maybe they had no idea where you lived, you are living in fear that they are going to be in your house when you get home.
That's
There was
hectic.
layers of layers, but I will say that conversation that cop had with me was a game changer, because he was like, shrink your circle. He's like, right now, you need to have the smallest group of friends ever. I need to talk about this with no one. See who brings information back to you. See who's bragging about this in other networks that is taking credit for this assault on your life. You know, be proactive. Like, there was always cops at the 7-Eleven down the street from me. So when I would come home at night from Sirius, when I did use their studio, I'd leave there at midnight. And it's late. I'd meet the cops at the Sev. I'd have them drive me into my underground parking, walk me up into my place, and then leave, because I was that afraid. I was living in the fear where, excuse me, you don't go to sleep until it's daylight. That fear.
Wow.
Jesus.
You're afraid to sleep in the dark.
So wait, backing up. So besides the creepers, which is insane, it's so crazy to see. No, it's so crazy to see guys slide into DMs too, and the shit they say. You're like, dude, do you think that was like, that's the heater
That's gonna get her?
That was the one that Lisa was gonna be like, oh yeah, dude, send me your number. I can't
They
wait.
also
to
think
we have a
they're
future.
the only one. Like, they also think they're the only one that came at you like that. Like, and they're all like, you and your 230 fucking followers. Okay, why? Why do you think I want to be with you? It's you know what I'm saying.
You're right. Thank you so much for your message.
Life
Where have you
changing.
been
I
my
can't
whole
wait to go to dinner with you. I cannot wait. Let me
Tell
stop.
me where.
Let me stop everything. I got going on. But
Wait. So
Waiting.
if you don't mind, so the creeper thing is one thing, which is crazy. Like,
but
I don't think
threatens
most.
on your life is another thing.
Yeah, I don't think most people understand
Yeah.
that concept.
I used to date a famous Instagram model, and there was like on the Reddit, kids were talking shit about me. Like, oh, Matty goes to some shitty DJ. He probably has so much money. Like, I'm better for her.
I get
type
hateful
of stuff.
shit every
Yeah.
day, and I'm not even famous. I get all kinds of stuff.
You got a text one time.
Oh yeah, people hate.
Yeah, they
it.
called me a
As our company
stoner.
gets
Then
bigger,
I log in and I was like, I will background check.
as our company
So-
gets bigger and this gets bigger, I get hateful shit all the time. Like, the stock's not doing well. You're a piece of shit. You should die. I get it too now.
They told me to stop
someone
hanging
got
out
my
with that
number,
stoner
someone texted
kid.
me.
He got
Wait,
one, and so I did a background check, and I was
Smart.
like, "This is where he lives. This is his number. These are the addresses."
Probably
he had.
bad
These are his
intel to give to a
neighbors.
guy
These are
like
his-
me. Yeah.
Well, and then the crazy person who's like, "I can background check this."
Yeah. Why
got
wouldn't you?
this.
I'm gonna just
Why
take a
wouldn't you?
few Adderall and figure out this guy's whole life.
I was like,
We got this. We're
She
gonna
had-
go to his Facebook.
Call
I found his
Lisa on the
grandmother.
landline.
I found his grandmother.
Lisa, answer your landline. I have information.
I got you.
Wait. So there's like the creeper factor, and then, which I'm guessing it's always in the back of your mind. And then you had, prior to that, there was a threat, or that beef got so intense that you were like tripping out.
That person really generated enough action to want to just try to destroy me. And it was exactly what the cop said. This is mental warfare. This person just did everything from having another person who was the only person in the industry that had my mom's phone number as an emergency contact, because I
No.
knew somebody needed to have it. I gave it to one person once. And that person gave it out to people who flooded my mom's phone, my cell phone with all of my porn. So to this day, over that, I do not have my mom's phone number.
Wow.
No contact.
With your mom.
None. That's pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't
On
talked to
both
your mom
ends.
since?
We haven't talked since 2015.
Wow.
If you don't mind me asking, like, she just doesn't want to? Have you tried
It was the catalyst of this. And to be real, you read the tweet that was put out about my sexual abuse as a child. And it was something that I did not write about in my first book. And as my first book was coming out, this person who knew this about me tweeted this. And so that affected my family, because they wanted me to keep this to myself for my life.
Sure.
And so to them, this was a huge point of contention. And once it was out, I went home in August of 2015. Now, mind you, my grandfather has already passed away and Peggy has already passed away. So the two people that I really wanted to go home for were no
Yeah.
longer there.
Yeah.
And nobody else was really that great in my life. My parents have both been intermittent. My mom was out of my life from 13 to 24, then back in my life from 24 to 40 something. My dad wasn't in my life from 16 to 40, then not, so like, it's just been this.
Do you harbor any like hatred towards
I
them?
finally am past that.
Good.
I finally worked through that by telling my truth in this book and by admitting that this was something that was in my life. And in August of 2015, when I went home, I said, I just want to sit down and talk with everybody about it. I've forgiven everybody involved and I've let this go, but I want everyone to know how it affected my life. And I get, blamed for everything. In my family, I'm not allowed home on holidays. I'm not allowed to be around people. I'm not allowed to go to funerals. I'm not allowed to go to weddings because I'm the porn star. So I've never had any sort of normalcy. And I wanted to just say, hey, is it fair that I have been excluded from all of these activities? Or can we talk about where this actually started? So,
Because that's never been what I understand from you as well was that this was always a choice.
Always a
always
choice.
a personal
It was
choice.
always a choice. It
And it was
enabled me
never
to do
to
the
involve
three things
anyone.
I wanted. And it never involved anyone. But sometimes we pine to have we have all these good relationships, but there's one that isn't good. We try so hard to make it work.
So hard.
That's kind of unnecessary because you know what you're doing? You're shortchanging all the great relationships that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You're not celebrating the simplicity that's there from these totally non-judgmental, open, compassionate relationships because you're over here unhappy about this. When I finally did let it go, my whole life changed.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's I read this book once. It's a weird title, so don't make fun of me like I made fun of you about the landline. It was when I was going to church a bunch. It was called Beta Satan. The idea was that this idea of unforgiveness, that vengeance is the Lord's, right? That it's not up to you really in the grand scheme of things.
It's not.
When I first read that, I was probably 24, and out here for the first time and learning new things and holding a lot of grudges. And I wanted to talk about, you mentioned forgiveness. I think it's one of those great life lessons that's hard to learn, but once you learn it and to really just forgive, throw things under the rug, not worry about it too much. Stop trying to figure people out.
If you carry it with you, it's like packing your suitcases too heavy, right? If you carry all of these things that you resent with you through your life, and after years and years, they start to build up because more people have wronged you and more things are going, eventually it gets really hard to move. It gets hard to flow.
Yeah.
You get sluggish. You can't meet people.
Skin
you
gets
become more jaded and more judgmental when you realize, when you just look at each situation and go, okay, you know what, that happened.
You had a
part of
big,
who
you
I
had a
am.
big one though, your parents not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only the abuse, but not being there for you during your career and even reading your book.
Not being there for me.
At all. Yeah. So how did you did someone coach you through that? Were you reading books? Were you I'm just fucking over it? Were you cause again, I think a lot of people out there, you should learn to forgive. I think the greatest insult, even the Bible says it, you heap burning coals in someone's head when you forgive them, right? If you can forgive, it's the worst thing that can happen to that person when you don't give a fuck anymore.
Yep.
And you let it go. Were you reading stuff at the time? Were you I'm just over this? I'm just tired of being sick and tired? Were you tired of the anguish? How did you get to that point which is a big one for you? How did you do it?
I was reading a lot. I was fortunate when I had my spa in Huntington Beach that, you go to these trade shows, right? I had put my name in a raffle for a Deepak Chopra event. And I won
man.
the
You won the
event.
raffle?
I won the fucking raffle. And so I got
never
to go
win
to,
raffles.
I never had one either, but this was the best one ever win. So he was doing an event in LA at a hotel. It was a small room, maybe 60 of us. And he was going to speak, and then you got a one-on-one session to kind of talk
Wow.
with him. And
the hell of a
I was
raffle?
25 years old. It was life-changing because he talks about
You were 25 when you went?
he talks about letting go.
Yeah.
And when he walked into the room, he says, everybody hold your breath. Take a deep breath and hold it. So everybody's sitting there holding their breath. And then he says, is it getting uncomfortable? You can't let it go yet. You can't let it go. Hold your breath, hold your breath.
That's good.
And then he says, exhale, let it go.
Yeah, that's good.
And
Simple
and it was
concept.
such and it was like that shift in my mind where it was open and I was like, yeah, let it go. That was a game changer. And from him,
Love that.
seeing him, I read every one of his books. I continued down that rabbit hole. But you're right. And look, if you try and erase something from your life, regret, or you wish something didn't happen that you don't want to have to forgive, it's like taking a link out of a chain. It's going to fall apart. Everything that happened to us, both good and bad, was meant to be in our path to improve us as people and to see what we're made of. Like,
it's hard though.
It's what you're made of. It's
what you're made of.
so true.
But it's hard though. You go through enough tough times, you start to get bitter, right?
Of course.
It took me going through, we talked about it on the last podcast, doing Molly and going through therapy, but Molly therapy that was
I know
intentional.
exactly what you're
and
talking
it
about.
blew my fucking mind. But it helped me love myself, forgive myself, which is huge. But to really sit still and realize like, hey, I need to let go of these things. It's holding me back. It's tough though, because I'm still ultra competitive. Like, I want to crush competitors and destroy people, and I'm still working on that. I probably have a few more Molly therapies to go.
Have you studied the ego as well?
What do you mean studied it?
Really understanding the ego and how it works for and against you has been a game changer for me too. I probably have read 50 books on different people's
Explain.
perspective of the ego.
How does the ego serve us?
It can be your worst enemy. You know what I mean? You should really be serving from the heart and not from the ego, because the ego does make you have on that shield and does make you ultra competitive, which it's great to be competitive, but for the right reasons. And there's also, the ego can make you push yourself to a level that you shouldn't. And it puts you in places that you don't want to be. I probably wouldn't have had that whole altercation if my ego wasn't speaking for me and allowing me to go out there and tweet things that I shouldn't.
Right there, give us an example of where your ego got in the way and fuck shit up.
I decided to play prostitute hall monitor, which was something I used to do a lot. Like,
My favorite game.
Do you own that domain too?
I don't.
Well, I won't pull this until.
No. Oh my God, I have to do that.
This is getting going right now.
Prostitution. So in the industry, there were girls that openly did it and would be honest about it. And then there were the other girls that said they didn't do it and kind of talked shit about the girls that did it.
Wait, hold on. I was writing down prostitution hall monitor. To do what? You're talking about like hooking up off?
Hooking, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about, okay. You're talking
Escorting.
about, I got it.
And it's something that I never did, and it's something I never wanted to do. I made enough money in the business. I don't trust the one-on-one. It's still my jam, okay? And in the 90s,
talk about being terrified.
If you did it, a lot of directors and producers would not work with you. A lot of talent would not work with you. It's like, you're not a prostitute. You're a porn star. You choose. You're one or the. So in the 90s, it was like this. And then when the internet happened, it became girls started getting into the business just to get a brand name to make more money as a prostitute. So this whole power shift happened. And for us, it did present some risk, because a lot of times the client would pay extra to do it without a condom.
Yeah.
And then we were seeing more STDs in the industry than ever.
gnarly.
The health risk was scarier than ever.
Do you think
Oh, sorry.
Do you think sex work should be legal?
You know, I'm torn, right? Because I'm becoming less of a prostitute hall monitor. Because I have more people having conversation with
Like,
me.
I
that
think
they
it should
enjoy
be legal.
I do, but I don't know if it should be 18.
I do. I think it should be 21.
That's where I have a
agree.
concern. Okay, so I'm fine with it being legal.
You're in
but
high school. You should get all the.
also, like, you do not need to make that money for your first paycheck, and
No.
you also need to have your own sexual experiences first,
Right.
And not do your first things with some.
Oh, I
random
see what you're
dude.
saying. Not to have it, to actually do it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Like, look, I didn't do
21,
I
20
didn't do
yeah.
certain scenes until I did them in my personal life. And directors would ask me all the time, like, "Oh, when are you going to shoot anal?" I'm like, "When I start doing anal at
I'd like to
home."
try
like,
it first.
Yeah, I'm not going to just do this for an extra couple $100. Like, it just seems weird, you know. I also used to tell people I was keeping it in my back pocket from when I was cracked out and broke, and I needed to make a big, strong return. But so I was playing prostitution hall monitor, and there was a girl who insisted she never did it, and I knew she did it, and she was in Dubai, and she had put something on social media on like Insta.
Wait, so going back to
This is the ego
No, because you lost me.
conversation.
Yeah, you lost me. But I'm going back to you were doing the hall monitor thing to catch everyone up again, because in the industry you guys get tested every week.
2 weeks. Every 2 weeks.
And I'm guessing everyone in the industry protects each other, because if to a degree
you would hope.
It sounds like back in the day it was more protected. And then when you have people who are hooking, you're bringing in all this outside influence. So that's why you were upset. Okay.
And it was also like some people are very clean about it. Some people have their clients get tested, but other people are like partying. And when you start partying and adding drugs and alcohol, I find it hard to believe a condom comes out. I'm just saying.
You just stop it right then and there.
So you start not wanting to work with people. So you have a list of people where you're like, I think this person's high risk. I'm not going to work with this person. And then that person works with a guy you really like, and then you have to get that guy retested right before you're seen. So she was in Dubai. She had put something on her Instagram that she's betting on camels, and I go on Twitter. I didn't tag her, but I wrote, I bet when girls are in Dubai that they're hooking. You know, I was like, and I thought I was being funny.
Thanks, bro.
That was my own ego, and that cost me. That situation cost me greatly. It cost me financially. It cost
Do you
me
think
my
it was
safety.
ego, or like how could you have handled it differently? Like just sent her a text?
I could have just not said anything. It could have just not mattered. I could have just not meant to be that person that has to stand up for everything in the industry and be better.
Were you still
than someone
working
else.
in the industry, or were you like an agent at that time?
I was retired already, and I was on my very last feature booking, and I was bored at the airport at like 3 a.m. So by the way, I sent this tweet and then boarded a flight and didn't know how bad the shit hit the fan for like 5 more hours.
You're like, and then it all hit you.
And then I landed. I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta delete that tweet!" Like, "Oh my god, I should not be bored." That's when I learned to start carrying books to the airport. But
Don't be
so
bored.
the ego is something to really keep in check, and to know, like, am I stepping outside the lines here in an unnecessary way?
Yeah.
Does this bring value to my life? But at this point, I was that person, and it really trained me to not be that person and be better than that.
Yeah.
But there's still, because to me, if I was in your situation, that would still be a concern.
Right.
So how would you have even, if you had let the ego down, how would you have approached that to not, I guess publicly.
Call it a landline. I wouldn't have. I should have just kept my nose. I should have just kept my nose out of
And
it.
then just test.
I should have just minded my own business and just been like, that she's been lying about this forever.
Yeah.
So just and I'm sure other people know too. But you don't need to be the
You don't have to
reporter that shares this detail, right?
Yeah.
Those are things of ego, right? And those are things that can be very detrimental to us. But forgiveness is, I'm glad that Chris has done some work on this, because forgiveness is so important, because when you actually do forgive, it's instantaneous how much better you feel.
100%.
Yeah, I've heard of it like a thorn in you, but then you wrap the Band-Aid around the thorn instead of pulling it out. Mm-hmm. Like you got to pull it out first before you actually do the healing.
I'm not.
You do.
I've had. At this point, I'm like, if you're over 30, if you don't have any trauma, I'm like, where'd you live?
Yeah.
In a convent?
Yeah.
Grain Junction.
Yeah. What's your story?
Yeah. Then there's trauma happening that you don't know about, and we should chat.
Yeah,
And also,
it's gonna come out.
but we also, when I went through this really trying scenario, I did everything. I went and sat in church. I read like crazy. I gave myself a book challenge. I read a book a week. I didn't allow myself any alcohol for 2 years. Wow. I leaned into every documentary I could find on being happy and finding peace. And all I did was research during the darkest time in my life on how I could find peace and how I could forgive and how I could get to that next level in my life. And I will tell you, forgiving and letting go changes your whole genetic makeup, because people say to me now, you look younger than you used to. I'm like, yeah, I don't worry about shit. I don't carry any negativity with me. I don't have ill feelings towards anyone. All of that, you're carrying it on you, and it shows on your face.
He convinced me at Burning Man. Chris, convinced me at Burning Man.
Have you ever been to Burning Man?
No.
Do you
Oh
want to
my
go?
God, do you want to go?
If you have a good situation with not a porta potty.
We go every year.
Okay, I freak out about porta
Excuse me,
potties. I'm sorry. I know I'm sounding bougie over here.
No, they're fucking gross.
But when people tell me that they're going to be in a tent and use a porta potty, I'm like, I will be in a nice hotel somewhere, and we'll FaceTime.
I will pee in the dirt before I use a porta.
No, we bring a big trailer.
Is that bougie?
I'm a spoiled person. I won't go to GA and pee in a porta potty. I need my private DJ bathroom.
What is GA, bro?
General admission. I won't do GA either at any concert.
About to ghost don't wait in lines, dude.
I like to call that Gen Pop for the rest of
Wow.
So
You got to come to Burning Man one day.
okay, as long as it's
It'll
not a
blow
porta
your
potty.
fucking mind.
Yeah.
Please, do I?
But everyone's GA at Burning Man.
No. Does it look like I go in a porta potty?
No, they're not.
thank
Except
you.
for the billionaires,
Yeah, there's a
Thank you.
billionaires row. There's
I worked worked hard in this
We'll
world
poop in
to
their
not
bathrooms.
porta potty.
Porta potty it.
What were we talking
Don't
about?
deserve this.
Oh, I
Forgiveness.
convinced you at Burning Man to do what?
To let go of trauma that I had been holding on to and refusing to talk. He was the only person that knew about it. Because I think he Jedi mind tricked me and got it out of me one
It's
night.
the blue eyes.
It is the blue eyes.
He called
Also,
me out.
it's your aura too.
He called me out at a bar.
I have this thing real quick. I have this thing where I don't look like a nice guy. I mean, I have a baby face, but I'm covered neck to nuts in tattoos. I'm 6'3", 285. I don't look, but everywhere we go, someone will come up to me and be like, I'm getting a divorce, man. I'm like, why me?
And
They want to talk to you.
I know. I don't know why.
You look like you have the answers.
I convinced
Yeah, it's
Gina.
shocking. I'm like, that was who you chose to tell your deepest, darkest secret to? Are you
So
serious?
happy for you. I'm so happy that you two have such a great working relationship.
Yeah,
It was special. It was at the temple. The temple's this
Yeah.
idea where they build this big thing it's so mind blowing when you see just the temple at Burning Man. You're like, it almost brings tears to your eyes. You're like, what? How did
moving.
people do this? And the temple is this idea, and Burning Man is this idea that you're letting go, you're burning to the ashes the old parts of you, the parts you want to let go or forgive or whatever. And so when you go to the temple at Burning Man, there's like chaos around you, and the temple at Burning Man is still quiet and beautiful.
Very
it's like
peaceful.
a church almost.
Okay.
And you'll see people just sitting in the dirt crying, holding a picture of their dad. And then like 1 year I brought my dad's ashes because it was what he lived for, Burning Man. And the people put like a note, and Gina.
Yeah, I wrote to the person that had created the trauma for me. I'd never recognized him, brought him up, even though I knew everything. You didn't exist in my life. And that was my revenge, was you don't exist. You are dead. But I had to bring him to life
Sure, you did.
in order to kill him.
Yep.
And so I had thought about it. He's like, what about temple? I'm like, I don't know if I can do it yet. And I was like, you know what? And my girlfriend was like, write the letter. So I sat there in the RV with my non-porta potty.
Oh, thank God you
Yeah.
guys get an
Yeah.
RV. This
Yeah.
is really sounding appealing.
Yeah, non-porta potty moment. So I had all my snacks and my beverages with me.
And running water.
And running water. And I wrote the letter out.
Tea and crumpets were there. It was great.
We had tea times. But I wrote that letter
Mushroom
out.
tea
And
time?
it was, as soon as I wrote it, it was like, I could have almost collapsed from that feeling of like, what?
Carrying it.
And then you wonder, like, why did I hold it? Like, what was it was like a vengeance where it was like, I have this secret and you can't win because no one will know.
I just don't think we communicate enough to people about forgiveness. And I don't think we talk enough
agree.
about how to let these things go.
Yeah.
So we believe that we're stronger by carrying these little secrets with us. Look, I didn't write my truth in my very first book because I thought I can't let everybody know that I was broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want the world to know that I was broken. I've shown myself as being so whole. But it's okay, I fixed myself. But it's also okay to admit that I was broken.
But then admitting that's
Yeah, but
where,
everyone
when
else
I read
takes a
that
deep breath
book-
too. They're like, "Oh, fuck you too," and you're like, "Yeah,
Yes.
dude, I'm fucked
Yes.
up. I have skid marks in my underwear too, and a
Yes.
landline."
That's what connected me though so much where I was like, I feel like when I meet her, I'm going to know her. I'm like, I don't know if that's weird.
No.
Because I don't know if a book is intended for that. But it was in those,
Do you
it was
think-
a moment where I'm like,
If you two
Thank
never
God.
met, you'd still be carrying that with you.
Yeah.
And you'd probably be
I
in
pegged
bad
it the first time we ever had
relationships.
drinks together. I was like, "This happened." She was like, she just started crying. I was like,
Jedi mind tricked out of
yeah.
me.
And then I was like, can we get another round? Please.
"Bring 4 more of
so
those for me.
shocked.
One
Can you
straw."
Bring the fucking bottle. Okay.
Do you
That's
think?
where we're
Do you
at.
think so? This is an interesting idea. So because Lisa is so open,
Lisa or Lisa?
and just
Ann?
no,
Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever's easiest for you.
LA.
Lisa's casual. A lot of my friends call
Young
me
LA.
What is it?
Like
Sunshine?
Young Rock? Yo.
Yo, Young
Sunshine?
LA.
Sunshine was my
Rosie-
nickname all through
Rosie
school. Rosie
Colucci.
Colucci.
Rosie
Sunshine.
Rosie Colucci.
That was the
You're
stripper
like
name I
Method
really,
Man with all the
really
nicknames.
wanted
That would
to
be a
use.
rad
That
clothing
was my
brand.
She
dream
wasn't allowed to
porno
have
name.
the porn name.
That would be a rad clothing brand.
Rosie
Colucci.
Colucci.
Fuck yeah. it
I
would
wanted
be.
every DJ on the road to be like, Rosie
Rosie
Colucci
Colucci.
coming up
Rosie.
stage one.
Oh man.
Rosie Colucci coming up.
Do you think it's because she's open and obviously sweet, and obviously there's parts of her that have grown so much? One of the things I said on a podcast once, if you want to grow from point A to point B, just start reading. People are always like, how do you do it? And you're like, just start looking and start reading and start developing. So do you think it's because she's open and it's because I'm so honest with people like her, in a sense that people feel more drawn to you to tell you things? Like her
I
idea of
think-
like being open and like letting stuff out.
Oh, totally. Because it's when someone breaks that barrier and says, this happened to me, this is,
It opens
then
the door.
you're free to go, okay, so you're not going to judge anything I'm about to tell you because you are so willing to open yourself up and go, like you did, where you're like, oh, let me tell you about my childhood. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
shit. But then it says, you're in a safe place. I haven't said it yet, but you know, because I'm willing to share something, that you're in a safe place to share your shit.
Yeah.
Because at no point am I going to go, oh, fuck, that happened to you?
You know, it's such
You're
a-
that person, because that person doesn't exist anymore. I've become a better version or a different version of that, but that's still me. And you're willing to say, and Lisa's willing to say that you're still in there, and I'm okay with that person too.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people open up so much to Chris, is because off the bat, you just look at him and you're like, you've either gone to prison or you've seen some shit. Like, something is happening. So let me tell
Do I have a
you,
prison face?
it's the more overall,
Demeanor?
mostly when you take your shirt off at bars when you've had too much to drink.
I do that a lot.
That's so funny.
I take my shirt
so
off
this is
everywhere.
an
And the Miller
indicator this
effect happens,
weekend.
I take mine off.
When the shirt comes off, I know he's had too much to drink.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
we're getting some tips
We're not
here.
allowed to
We're
buy
out at
brown
all.
alcohol.
He'll
No.
threaten it.
Dark liquor?
No dark liquor this weekend.
Okay.
No.
No Jameson?
Only-
Never give him brown liquor.
No brown liquor.
I'm kind of wild on
I turn
brown liquor,
into
too.
the Hulk.
Do you fight people?
Yes.
I come from a very tough background. So I grew up, got picked on a lot, fought a lot, grew up in a rough neighborhood. You know, street fighting where I grew up was
Mental
a part of
warfare.
it.
Mental warfare.
Even part of like my high school experience was just brutal. I mean, first day of high school got beat up. I watched people get beat up every day. I walked over dead bodies walking to school. Everything. And even as I became upper middle class and was, a top tier athlete and the cool kid and all that stuff, it was still a brawl every day, even on like the same team. And so a lot of my life was very just tough. Played collegiate sports, football, rugby, all that stuff. And so a lot of my DNA is just very, and Gino also always says I'm the protector. So there's just a part of me that is intense. And when there's too much brown liquor, I turn it into the whole a story in college. I used to do dumb shit like this. Like I got so drunk once in a bathroom by myself. I was by myself. No one was like, "Yay, bro, I dare you to do that thing."
All alone.
I basically got into this bathroom and then ran face first through all the stalls and like ripped out all the toilets. I was by myself. It wasn't even like a egged on thing. So yeah,
Okay.
brown alcohol
Yeah.
is tough for me.
Yeah.
But no, so isn't it
We
amazing?
can watch
though?
from like a safe room if
And
you
I
want
don't
to
do
see.
tequila for the reason of I don't do tequila.
Oh, then we're just doing
Tequila's
vodka all weekend. Cool.
Tequila will make me violent, and I haven't done it in years though. Since
Ooh,
so
you
I
guys should
know. I
fight.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, we could get blacked out.
Oh, fuck the rock. It'll be Chris Miller and
Versus
Lisa
Lisa
Ann.
Ann.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's such a life lesson though? Like I don't know where it happened for me. I think it was when I came here and hit rock bottom and felt alone, and I started going to church a lot, and I started reading a lot of books, tons of books. These guys will tell you I'm a book nerd. I read all the time. And as I was reading and just hanging around more men who were,
Growing mentally.
growing, yeah, I started to, and I don't know where it snapped in me. I think it was also because I got into sales and I started to realize how to communicate effectively and how to be honest and forthcoming and candid. But there was a moment around 24, 25, probably same age as you, where I was like, you know what? Fuck it, dude. Like, I'm going to tell people where I'm at, where I've been, all the things I've been through. And I stopped being judgmental because I started getting around like groups of people where I was like, actually where it fucked me up was church. Cause I went to church and I thought this is supposed to be the place where you're not judged. And it definitely wasn't. And I started to develop this idea of like, I'm not going to judge people. I'm messed up.
I don't want people to judge me, so I've never judged anybody.
Yeah.
Like when you get into
But it's
porn,
freeing.
Oh,
though.
it's
like,
like
it's
a
freeing.
and you do
invitation.
this for a living.
Yeah.
Who are you to judge?
You really can judge.
And so
It's
for
like, yeah.
me, it's always been that, and people are very open to come to me with their things because they know like who this bitch is going to judge me because the whole world's judging her.
Right.
She doesn't want them judging her.
That's what it is. It's because of how open I am about my life. People always come to me with things.
And I'm from that Italian Catholic where all you live in is
You just shove
guilt.
it down. Yeah, you just push it down.
Guilt.
so much guilt.
Catholic
I
guilt
first
sucks.
had to
Push
my
it down
mom-
until you hit a woman.
So much guilt and so much lying and gossiping and gambling and doing all the things
So-
we just sat in
Sounds
church
awesome.
talking about.
Italians are
we weren't
Catholic
supposed
because
to do
of that.
Yeah,
It's
but
like Italians are Catholic. I asked my uncle once, was like, you can kill someone and then just go to church.
Same day.
Yeah,
Go
say
to
you're sorry.
confession
Yeah.
and you're
Same day.
okay.
Yes.
And
you
it was
can-
like a joke. 'Cause I'm
If
like,
you
no
bring
wonder
gold
Italians
coins,
are Catholic.
you're even more forgiven.
No wonder the mob is all like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
we'll just go pray about it. It's okay.
I
It's
just
okay.
say I was raised Catholic, born dirty.
Hey.
Born dirty?
There it is.
We were all born dirty, bruh.
That's right. Placenta.
It's your love, though, eh? We talked
Yeah,
about this
we are
yesterday.
loved,
you are
dude.
wonderfully and beautifully made, Mayhew. You
Chris
are
gave us
perfect.
a seminar in choice
I think I
yesterday.
almost made you guys cry.
Yeah, we were tearing up.
Oh, really? Tell me about this.
So Chris we were talking about like, does hell exist or heaven exist? And if we're all created in God's image or we are God, would you really damn your own offspring to like hell?
So this is an interesting conversation, which I could go on and on about for 16 podcasts.
I saw it yesterday. Yeah, he can.
So when I got to
Facts.
church, I was really looking for something, and I was looking for redemption, love, acceptance, things we're all looking for. And as I got into church, I realized I didn't need anyone's acceptance. I had God's acceptance. That I was loved. I didn't need anyone else. I did not even my parents. My dad was a drunk. He died when I was young. He was never around when I was a kid. I battled with that insecurity until I was in my 20s.
Sure.
But through church, I started to realize that there's a greater source. Call it what you want. Shiva, Yahweh,
Right,
whatever. Black, white,
whatever
gold.
you wanna call it,
There's
yep.
50 of them. One of them, I don't care. The universe, energy,
Yep.
molecules
I
bouncing
feel the
back and
same.
forth.
Whatever you choose, as long as it brings you that light.
There's a greater source. And I started getting really into church, and then it started to crack, and I started to ask all these questions, and I was reading all these subtexts on the Bible, and I was like, is Jesus really real? Is this real? Did this really happen? And after reading the Bible multiple times and going to church every day and reading all these subtexts like Lee Strobel's book, Case for Christ, and all these books, and I was just deep, I started to just poke holes in it, and if you really read the Bible, there's one idea that it's the word of God and it's literal words of God, which I don't believe. And that you should follow it literally. And I'm like, as you read the Bible, you're like, well, Noah was a drunk. Moses murdered people. Paul killed people who wrote most of the New Testament. Peter denied Christ to his face. All the apostles were train wrecks. Judas was a dick. There's not one guy or woman in the Bible that's like, you're like, oh. And then I started to recognize these patterns, and I was like, oh, they're all fucked up. They all have skid marks in their underwear. They all have landlines. They're just normal people who were messed up, who needed something else. And, so then as I started looking into other pastors, one of my favorite speakers is this guy named Rob Bell, who did this talk called Everything is Spiritual. And he started comparing that science is getting to a point now where it's getting so good that they're running out of answers. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
And so they're calling it the God question. They're able to split atoms into quarks into even smaller molecules that they don't understand it anymore, that they can separate those two things on two separate sides of the world and they vibrate at the same frequency. And the scientists are like, we don't fucking know the answer. And it's starting to line up with religion, right? Where there's these things you just can't explain about space and time and the universe. And so he gives this incredible talk. Well, as his stars started to grow, because he was starting to challenge these like basic concepts of, especially Christianity, he's at this event with all these people, and it was supposed to be this event about love. And someone was like, I think one of the ideas was like, post the person that you think lived like Christ. Like, who's one of your heroes? And someone put up a picture of Gandhi. Now, if you study the Bible, one of the tenets is live like Christ. Live a servant's heart. Have a servant's heart. Serve other people. Give. And I can't think of another person who's lived that's recent outside of Mother Teresa who lived a life. I mean, he created nonviolent protests. He kicked out the British Empire from India without raising a sword, firing a gun. The guy was amazing. Now, did he transgress? Did he have issues? He cheated on his wife? That's well known. So did Martin Luther King. Again, but he was a G. And someone wrote in that church, well, he's going to hell. So this pastor, Rob Bell, wrote a book called Love, and it was challenging the concept that there is no hell. And I fully bought into it. And our conversation yesterday with them was, number one, I don't think there's a hell, because if I had a kid, there's nothing that child could do to dis-earn my love.
Right.
That kid could kill 10 people in the last living unicorn, and I'd be like, I'm not sending him to hell, though.
Yeah.
And so we were having this conversation about heaven and hell, and then I was just telling these two that you don't need acceptance. You're wonderful.
He loves
you're
us.
beautiful. You're kings. You're co-rulers. You're gods. You're perfectly and wonderfully created. You don't need acceptance. You just need to tap into the source. And so I was getting them all riled up. Then we had wraps and we left.
We ate a
you
bunch
for
of
coming
meat.
to
And then I was
TED
like,
Talk.
get back to work.
Yeah, you got 5 minutes for that next thing. And everyone around the table was like, "What?"
And
was
part
great.
of acceptance too goes the other way. Accept other people as they are.
Yeah.
Without trying to control what you want from them. Without
Expectations.
yes.
covert
Like I
contracts.
just had a really great conversation with a girlfriend of mine. I've known her for 30 years. Her and her husband are getting ready to retire and they're going to live on a boat.
Oh my God.
So they're building this whole thing right now. They're going to be between California and Mexico. A couple months they'll be on land for stormy season, and they're living on this boat. So she was talking to me about her parents. She's got lovely parents. They were divorced when she was young, but they're both very present in her life, and they're both being a bit stubborn about her retiring and living on a boat.
Oh
so
my
they're
God.
both
The story's
reacting a certain way to her, and so she said to me, if I could choose my parents, I wouldn't have chose them.
Yikes.
And so I let her say it, but I slept on it, and I wrote her a very thoughtful email the next morning. And I said, you should never use those words again. You have to understand you have always been a bit of a control freak, and you are trying to control their actions. Your only actions you can control are your own. This is new to them. Let them come around to this. Don't force it. You and your husband are going to do exactly what you want to do for your retirement. Accept that you're doing what the fuck you want to do and stop making it. It's almost like you're inviting in drama because you're not satisfied
Did
by
you
the
start
response.
the email by saying you have parents who love you? Like
I
two
did.
of them who are together?
Not
together.
They're not together.
Oh.
But I wrote to her, in my experience, having the fact that my first 2 broken noses were from my father, who was an alcoholic and beat the fuck out of me, and my mother knew about me being sexually abused and did nothing about it. To hear a friend of mine who has parents that have been present in their life consistently say they didn't want to, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And I said, and she, she responded back with an email. She's like, "You're right. I'm never going to use those words again. And I really appreciate you calling me
Perspective, too.
out."
Yeah.
It is important for us to call out our friends in a mindful, thoughtful
Not
way.
the prostitution hall monitor.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. But if it's
Maybe, don't push her.
if it's a thoughtful way to just be like, "Hey, I don't want you."
When it comes from the
Because
heart.
When you're using those words, you're accepting.
Wait, can I rephrase
that reality?
You were
Yes.
leading her. You were leading. One of the things that we've been working on at Koios is self-leadership, leading each other. The team leads leading their teams, and then raising our standards. You were leading her.
And that's what your friendship should do, right?
Yeah,
She's
they
led me at
should.
times in my life. And it does switch
You
back
want
and
that
forth
in a
through the
friend.
years. A 30-year friendship, there were times both ways. And it is important. Don't just discount your friends say something, let them know how you feel about it, because her saying that to me made me sad, because I felt like, wow, she's accepting that. And I also put in the email, like, your parents aren't going to be here forever.
Yeah.
And you'll regret saying those words to other people once they do pass away. You'll have so much guilt for the fact that you said that, that you won't be able to live with yourself. Like,
If she ever hears this, one of the biggest regrets I had was having guilt when my dad died. You got to forgive and get it off your chest and get it out. And it ate me up. Actually, I thought he was going to hell. That's how messed up I was mentally in in religion.
at that time.
I thought he was going to hell. So that destroyed me. And then the thing of like never letting go, never sitting him down and telling him all those things, and having some things that I regretted. So if she ever hears this, or you have a parent in that situation and you're holding stuff back, I would encourage you as your friend, internet.
Yes.
You've
You're
been
looking
pushing
into
me
my
to do
baby
that.
blues.
Yes.
Forgive
accept
people,
your-
especially your
he
parents.
pushes me to do that a lot.
You should.
With your parents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've had
There's some things
huge-
left unsaid with them that I just feel like
There are, and there's part of me that feels more protection and holding a lot from them, because in my mind, like, I don't feel like you need to know that, because I have evolved past that, and I don't want to rehash all of that.
Sure.
And then that Italian guilt, my mom will just lose. She'll
Forever.
drop. Yeah.
Forever.
So there's parts where I'm like, I'm never going to give a lot to you in that sense, because I don't think you need that. But I've made huge strides with my dad, where when I moved here, it was like, this is our last shot. What are we going to do? Because I'm going to leave. And now we're like best buddies. But it took moments of being like, where I had to stand up to him and be like, stop screaming, stop yelling, stop doing that. And now it's like
'Cause
a
he's
joke.
deaf.
Well, yeah, he's also deaf too. But
Yeah, her dad's deaf. So if he were here right now, it's like
he just does a lot of this. You're like,
hey,
did
I'm
you
gonna-
hear my words?
I'm gonna punch you in the face later.
Has
He
he slowly
goes-
lost his hearing over time,
Yeah.
or is he? So
Just about
is he
it.
learning sign language, or does he have a
He
hearing aid?
refuses. I'm fluent in sign language, and he's always refused.
You are?
Yeah. Well, I'm like, I could teach you, and he's like, I'm not deaf though.
say I love you, Lisa, with your gibberish.
It's just like that.
But how do you say Lisa? How do you say?
Well, Lisa has to have a sign name.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm doing just learning on YouTube.
So you have to get a sign name. Like mine is the letter G, and then around
This is G.
this is Gina.
Oh.
That's my sign name because I smile all the time. So I was given that.
What would my sign name be?
Probably a C with like a lot of aggression. Yeah. But
No, you've made huge
it's-
strides
yeah.
of like,
and even my mom too.
confronting.
My mom has always been the one where my dad's always been the like, I lived through the fucking 60s. I get this shit. Like, like the first time I ever came home high, I was like, Mom, it's my contacts. And my dad was like, you want to try that again?
Is there any
What
Funyuns
was
in the
that?
house?
And my dad was like, just fucking be honest. Or just don't come home late off curfew and I won't question you. I'm like, valid. I can take that. I can
Okay.
work with this.
Okay.
But my mom has been one that I've had to really stand up to. When I got my first tattoo sleeve, it was, I'm obviously did
Oh
it to
my
kill
gosh,
her.
the Italian. Oh my god. To them, you're like, you can't be buried by them. They don't want. There's this. It's a
many
huge
rules.
deal.
The first
The rules,
tattoo
the
I
fucking
ever got,
rules.
which is now you get why I'm such a rule follower because it's just been instilled, which I do still very much like rules. But the first tattoo I
Gina
ever
doesn't
got,
like speed.
no, it's against the rules.
I don't either. I'm always, my friends are like, I'm not getting in grandma's car today. I'll drive.
It is against the rules.
I just don't. I always wear my seatbelt. Always have.
It's
Always
when you
wore my
had
mask,
a
but I was
friend that
supposed to.
was
Yep.
killed in an accident.
Yep.
So that's
And drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I never drink and
Yeah.
drive right because of that.
Yeah, you've made huge strides. Like you're
But
like
I've
you know.
stood up and I haven't. It wasn't like a teenager that stood up to her mom. It was like, I'm
No.
fucking doing this. It
Does your
was-
mom nag you to get married and have children?
Okay, over. It's over. Yes.
Does she?
So, that's
Not necessarily
it's criminal.
married anymore.
Wait, can I say real quick before
Find
we
a
move on to
husband.
marrying and stuff? Is
a husband.
the change Gina's gone through? Moving to Denver, you got trained by wolves in a sales game that was very hard. Like my career started in a boiler room where it was,
Phone.
well, not only that, but we showed up to people's houses and closed, or we got kicked out. And she got trained by two of the best in the world, in my opinion. And you came up in a very tough men's world, but you were malleable and coachable. And I got her to quit college, but I just want to say the growth you've had as a person. I don't know if a lot of people could have. Actually, I know you're in the top 1%. You went through incredible trials and tribulations. You continued to grow, get better, be better, do better, raise your standard, and you absolutely crush it now. And I think even with your parents, that like salesperson, that leader in you came out to them where you were like, with my encouragement, I was like, you need to stand up to them. You need to tell them how you feel and what you want. And and then you did it though. Most people will hear advice, even on this podcast, and never go do anything about it.
Yeah.
You always took advice and took it to the next level.
I always want to learn. I do love learning. And when you stop learning is when you're dead. You've died.
And also, you don't want to accept mediocrity.
No.
So if I can massage this a little bit, make it feel and seem better, we can start to open up on communication. It's going to be forever that it's better.
Right.
Burying it under the carpet. It's a very Italian
Yes,
thing.
we
By
don't
the way,
talk about
we don't
any-
talk
What is
about
that
that
about Italians?
Oh my gosh!
Don't ever
don't
fucking
talk
bring
about
it
it.
up.
You bring up something. Everybody stops moving in the house. You can have a
Why?
whole kitchen full of
You
your relatives.
witnessed it.
You
I
bring up
thought,
a word
East
and they
Coast-
just freeze.
I
He's
thought East Coast
witnessed it.
Italians were like, they always went at each other.
Well, not for personal reasons.
No, there's just some things you just don't speak of.
You will never speak of a
and-
divorce. You will never speak.
Oh, no.
Never.
No.
Your house gets weird. Like
You've witnessed it
I've
with
been
my
at
mom.
dinners with her families, and someone will I'll even confront someone about an article or something, and her mom will just be like, "Anyways, you guys want cinnamon rolls?" And I'm like, "Whoa, hold on, I want to argue with Gina's
He
sister
confronted
about."
her actually because I was telling you about the stroke. I was relating to.
Oh
things.
yeah, I had to pull her parents aside.
And this was one of those ego moments where I'm like, this will either break me or I can come out of this. And even everyone that was there at the accident said no one could have had that except for you. Because I went, let's
She
fucking
came back
move
to
on.
work on Monday and worked a like insane amount of hours, like to the point where I was like, I'm worried about you.
And this goes right back to us talking about acceptance. When you don't accept the things as they are, you are wasting time and energy trying to control something that's out of your control and living in a mental space that is not bringing you the purest form of happiness, because it can be taken from you.
Yes.
Your life can be taken from you today. So these are the reminders. This is why I had to email my girlfriend. I couldn't say it to her that night on the phone, but I had to the next day send her an email saying, is this really the
really wanna
words that
say
you
that?
want to put out to the universe that are going to vibrate back to you?
Yeah.
Is this really, if they heard that, how would it feel? Accept things as they are and be thankful to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stop trying to change everybody and live in the moment.
It's so
because it can be
true.
taken from us at any time.
And that
So
was said
hard,
to
though.
me afterwards by, she wasn't even like your typical, she wasn't like a psychotherapist. Like she does like Reiki and but she had something about her that I just said, you're the person. I choose you to walk me through this. And I had.
Wait, we're talking about the therapist now?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's that acceptance of
Therapist, yep.
because I had.
This all goes
survivor's
back
guilt.
to you with your parents.
Well, yeah, because that catapulted me into the next stage of
Wait,
my
this
life.
all started because we're talking about Italian moms who don't, because I had to
Yeah.
pull her parents aside one day and I was like, I don't think you guys realize that your daughter almost died. Like, and I don't get the vibe that you guys are fucking, like, you need to hug her and pull her aside tonight and tell her you love her. And they were like, I was like, no, she almost fucking died. Like,
then my
But you
mom-
have to understand something about Italian parents. If you haven't been married and given them grandchildren by 30, you are causing a crime to them on a daily basis. It
Anguish.
is a daily
Anguish.
If you are, why do you want to work for your own money when you could be married to some man, have a beautiful home, be making me babies? That is the the Jewish culture is
38.
similar.
You are
what
out of
are you
time.
doing? Yes.
You are
Yes.
going to be out of time.
Yeah, you are going to be out. And who is going to want you at this age? Maybe you're too busy. Your career is so career focused. If you weren't so career focused, I bet you'd meet a nice man.
Yeah.
Find yourself a husband, they
Get
say.
yourself a good
You could be
husband.
married. And now the time is...
this would be a funny FitSoda commercial.
30
And what's even funnier is each time one of your friends or their younger sibling gets married, engaged, or has a child, they bring it up. Oh, did you know that the neighbor's younger sister, Lucy, had a baby?
You know, Mary's daughter just had her
and
Wait.
she's, 5 years younger than you.
This is a perfect time to have Gina do you know Gina does characters?
The best.
You got to do a character right now.
Which one?
Gina's life calling should have been improv comedy or acting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do an Italian mom.
I feel like we just did my mom.
Oh, my mom. Do a Midwest.
Yeah, well,
She's a good influencer girl.
my influencer is my favorite.
So that's how an Italian mom would go in on you.
No, it's a type. My mom she's like, it's always it's like a side thing too. They always have to give you a
It's
side.
a jab.
It's always
where they're like,
passive aggressive.
It's
Yes.
always passive aggressive.
queen.
Just say what you want.
She's like, well, I guess if that's what
The lifestyle you want to live.
Yes, that's how you want to
I
live.
guess that works.
I mean, if you're happy and they say it in a
Yes.
tone where you're like, you know what,
tone.
that was a fuck you. That was a fuck
Just
you.
slap me.
Yes,
I can accept that.
You are disappointed in me.
But the first tattoo I ever got on my foot, no one can see it ever.
God can see it.
My mom was in the corner
Crying.
Yes.
Like you had just
I basically
murdered.
put
I know.
fuck you, mom on my foot.
I know.
She
And
cried my first
she
time.
just, she
As
goes,
an
I
Italian-
just don't know
You
why
did?
you would do that
My mom
to
did.
me. Body.
To me.
To me.
And you know what? Because I had a tattoo that I had removed. It was on the back of my neck.
Which
and when my
As a
mom,
9 Inch Nails
you
tattoo.
should have kept
when
it.
my mom first saw it, she's like, when you have a daughter and she marks her body, the
Marks
body
her
that you
body.
created,
Yep.
the body that you carried, you're gonna you did this to me.
Yes. How could you do this to me?
This has something to do with you.
I didn't tattoo you.
But yeah, they take these things very.
Could you do? And then,
I got mine
and then they
first when I
hold
was
their
16.
crucifix.
Mom's like, dope.
No, I
They
told
have
my
to do
mom, I was
this
like,
thing.
get a tattoo. And she's like, all right.
They just hold it and they're like,
The guilt, and we're a different generation, and it's not the same as it was when they were younger.
It's designer skin, man.
But it's
oh, what I still have to, oh God, she just
I have designer skin now.
goes, are you done now? I'm like, probably not.
Are you done now?
Probably not. No, I might get another one.
Yeah.
Can you tell me when you're done with this stage? I'm like, it's not a stage. It's not, dyeing my hair purple in high school was a stage.
Right.
Parents
This
just
is
don't
not a
understand,
stage.
dude.
Remember
No.
that song?
They just don't.
Remember that song?
Yes.
Parents just don't understand.
Who's saying that?
Gail,
Parents are just people. There's no handbook. And that's a key element that I learned
Wait,
years
you
ago.
just said
That's why
something so
Chris's
fire.
favorite
No, you
topics.
just said something so fire. No, it's fire because, like, first of all, our parents should tell us the truth more often. Like, hey, man, shit's gonna get fucked up, and here's how it gets fucked up. That's number one. Number two, most of you who have daddy issues, because you all do. Realize that they were just doing their best job with the shit that they were given, and they were all fucked
were
up
dealt
because
a
their
certain
parents were
fucking
fucked
hand.
up, and it just passes on to generations. If you're one of the lucky ones who had great parents and it was Leave It to Beaver, you had dinner together every night, no one ever fought, your parents were sexually active with each other, they told you they loved you, you're lucky. You're in the top
Yes.
0.04%. But if they weren't, and I'm guessing they weren't, give your parents some slack.
Yeah.
Cut them some fucking slack. First of all, you're still here, you piece of shit.
Well, then
Yeah.
you
You're
look
still
back
alive.
at yourself as a teenager. I'm like, why didn't you kill me?
Yeah.
You should have killed me.
Mine couldn't have because I was this big in junior high. So I get why mine didn't.
The blame that like I used to put on because you were again where Chris, I don't know what he's like young Buddha, would be like, you gotta let that go. And I found where I was like, why am I holding? My mom, it was always
crushed
mom's
it.
lead. You
They
know,
crushed
the
it.
Italian mom leads it where she's like,
They
you
did-
will follow in parenting.
They
as a father.
did the best they could.
Yeah.
with what
With
she
what
knew.
they had,
Yep.
with what the world was also surrounded by at that time.
Right.
You know, technology has changed, information has changed, meeting people has changed. Everything that they knew, flash forward 20 years, is very, very different. So
Very.
that's why I say
Yo.
parents are just people. There's no handbook.
What's the environment in an Italian household around sex? Like, so because I asked you about sex work, I think it should be legal. I think we used to joke about this all the time. I think there'd be less murders, less wars, less serial killers if sex were more open to the public. Now, I grew up in Nevada where prostitution's legal. In fact, Gina's been to my backyard where I grew up riding
The Bunny
motorcycles.
Ranch is his backyard.
The Sagebrush, the Bunny Ranch, the Kit Kat Ranch is where I grew up, like in the driveway of those places. So like going to a brothel when I was 17 wasn't weird to me.
Right.
What is the sex conversation in? Because like it's definitely
there is no
There is
conversation.
no sex. Are you fucking kidding
Sex
me right
doesn't
now?
exist.
First
Babies
of all,
just happen.
First of all, until you're married, this isn't even you don't even
And
know
it's
about
still
it.
like that? Is it
you
still
haven't
like that?
discovered your vagina.
Yeah.
No, and you're not allowed. No, I can
You don't even
remember.
talk about your period with your mom. Like, show me how to use a tampon. It's like
the expression was when you're on a date, you're supposed to act like you're holding a pill between your knees the entire night.
why?
To keep your legs together.
don't ever.
How do you walk? Oh, you mean like if you're just
that's
sitting
why
down?
you're
None of this made sense to me either.
Oh, don't
I
turn around in
questioned-
church either. You'll turn to
Landlines
salt.
and pills between legs. I'm
Dude,
so lost.
Do not. They do. There's no sexual conversation. You know, something that I'm working on right now. So I'm being
That is
being
open.
brought on to consult for a new project, talking a lot about the misconceptions of porn, really talking about porn addiction,
Good.
and really talking about something new that I'm learning about is incels. And incels, which is an involuntary celibate man.
Yes, Matty has
and
talked
it's-
about that on
Yo,
the Reddit
I'm
thing.
so learning about
Wait,
this right
that's
now.
crazy. That's what we're.
Okay, so one emailed me yesterday, so I'm starting to gather, people.
What do you mean, like a guy who's an incel?
Guy emailed me to my Ask Lisa Ann at Gmail because I'll put out like, hey, I
Wait,
want to
can I
learn
back
more.
you up? Involuntarily celibate is what you
Yes.
said? Involuntary.
And it's because they're addicted to porn.
That's where Chads come from.
Yes.
And a Brad.
It's like a
Wait,
I've
hold on.
gone down the rabbit hole on this shit
hold on,
I
before.
love
hold on.
learning about this. It's very interesting to me.
So we talked about Chads. So how are you?
And Brads are Chads
Wait,
that aren't Chads
involuntarily
yet.
celibate just means you can't get
Laid.
So this
hook
guy
up.
that emailed me, his name is Kyle. He emailed my mailbag because what I'll do is I'll put out, hey, I'm looking, for information on this topic, or do you have a question for me? He has been addicted to porn for 10 years.
And
He's
if you
only
don't mind me asking,
21
someone
now.
who's the goat.
That was the guy that
Wait, can we
shot up
just say-
Santa Barbara was
Can
an
we just
incel.
say Lisa's the goat?
He was
The
an incel.
goat.
The goat.
The goat.
You're the goat.
The goat.
Right? You're
You
number one.
created
Yeah, dude.
whole genre.
Lisa's the goat. So you're the goat of the industry. Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
There's no question. There's no argument.
What is an actual porn addiction?
A porn addiction is now this. What really broke my heart about this kid is the fact that he admitted it's been 10 years.
Since what?
So that means he's been watching since he was 11.
Oh my gosh.
And he's addicted to it, like the adrenaline of it. You know, if you think about the fact that porn, you're supposed to be 18 years old to buy it for a reason, just like cigarettes, a reason, just like alcohol, a reason, because it's addicting and it can be very destructive.
Yeah.
And what happens is they get so consumed by it that they cannot have a normal conversation with a woman, so they're also virgins.
What do you mean by a normal conversation? Like they
don't know how to approach a woman, and they're not attracted to a normal human-looking woman. They're only attracted to what they've seen in porn.
Sure.
So they think that that's what a woman's supposed to look like. She's supposed to have fishnets on, be walking in clear heels. And, you know, they have this whole, and also they get so awkward within themselves that they've watched so much porn that they become insecure about their own performance. So it's a male-female thing. This guy that becomes an addict breaks down his relationship with these women that is fake, but then also builds this huge insecurity by watching these men that have, you know,
They're
large
like godlike.
Matty brought up
penises,
the
good
terms.
bodies, all of these things. And what we're seeing is an increase in violence with incels. Like, these are men that will go out and be very vile to women on social
Lisa,
media.
did you know? So, okay, so Gina got me into, this is going to sound weird. She got me into serial killers and like studying them. And then I got obsessed with the FBI profilers. We'll get there. One of the things that you notice as you study any serial killer or any even violent person, it's always about sex.
Yes.
It's guys, mostly men who didn't have access to or were nerdy or didn't hook up or
Yes.
couldn't hook up. And then obviously were emasculated by women or hate their mom. And there's some other trauma, obviously,
Right.
but a big portion of it
Oh, yeah, that's where that anger comes from.
is serial killers. It's all about sex. Every single one of
Yeah.
them. So it makes sense that an incel are becoming violent
And it's a fascinating thing
because
because
there's no intimacy.
There's
that's
no,
all, and that's all they want, right?
And if your first experience at 11 is watching a scene that could be very graphic, because let's talk about the algorithm. This is another thing. An 11-year-old still has to go to a tube site because they're the free content where they click the box that says they're 18. The tube sites, the algorithm pushes the most popular scenes, which are very violent, aggressive,
Yeah.
girl being choked, spit on. It's not a pretty little sweet MILF scene. You know, it's not, unless it's a really well-known performer, but if you look up the top 10 scenes on Pornhub,
Violent.
you'd be a little bit traumatized.
It's like Rocco
So now
stuff,
that's
like
what, yes.
aggressive.
So now that's what this kid is watching, right? Now his whole mind is just skewed. So
And that's sex to
educating
him.
parents that their kids are accessing content young is so important to me right now. I'm not anti-porn. I want people to watch it responsibly, consume it responsibly.
It's like anything, like booze, right?
Right.
Like,
It'd be like
there
if
should
that
be
kid
rules.
just started drinking every day at 11. And in his email, he
And then
said
blaming it on alcohol.
he tries to not watch it, but since he's always alone, he finds himself not being. And now I was able to
And
link
he's
him.
21 now.
Yes. I was able to link him with a woman that I know, Brittany De La Mora, who used to be in the industry, now is a preacher, married to a preacher in a beautiful life. And she's running a porn recovery program where they have an application that studies the person's computer, lets them collect the data, how much they're watching, and then feeds them other forms of information. When I wrote back to him, I said, you know, like, this is the perfect time to say, I want to learn a language to a country that one day I'd like to travel. And every time you are drawn to watching porn, instead go and also put adult blockers on your own computer so you can't access it. But it's so destructive that you just don't realize this next generation coming up, they're having less sex than ever. We have the lowest teen pregnancy rate in the United States that we've ever had in history, with a larger population, because these dudes are freaked out by their own penis because of what they've been watching with these dudes that look like rock stars doing scenes.
Yeah.
And they think they're too good to be with, they think they deserve to be with me. They don't think they deserve to be with the girl that likes them.
That's
They're like,
strange,
ew,
'cause
she's gross. No, she's just a normal girl.
normal. She's
that's
not
your
done
age.
up and-
yes,
because
she's
that's
not
what they don't
airbrushed.
realize.
She's not shot on a
Yeah.
high def camera. She's not lit perfectly. She's human.
She sat through
she's
3
talking
hours
to
of
you.
hair and makeup and it put a
Yeah, that's
costume
crazy
on.
because like I think back to, first of all, mine was like the dial-up thing, or like you'd get like 3 bars on channel
TV,
101 where you'd
And
be
see
like,
if you could like hear it and
like,
be synced up.
Yeah.
every
You see a
46
body,
seconds
like-
you'd hear one. And you'd see one boob and you'd be like, oh yeah, I get it. And then it was dial-up, so your parents knew it was like, and you're
Or when
like,
someone's dad has a Hustler magazine, you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is
We
crazy.
still did it to print, but like I think of like It's crazy that, man, I never thought of it that way. Like, you hear all these stories of like porn is ruining relationships and all this stuff. And
Other countries, Germany already has rehabilitation centers for kids under 18.
I was going to say that though, like for me, I don't know if it's because of the way that I grew up or whatever, but like when I see certain porn that attracts me, I'm like, I want to go try that. It doesn't like.
But for them, it's a different experience because remember, this is a non-social generation. They're also more apt to text than they are to make a phone call.
Yeah.
They're actually, we'll rather do a FaceTime than do a meeting in person. So as more they get isolated and rely on the internet, this is just easy. Also, it costs them nothing. They don't have to take a girl on a date. It really is.
No, I mean, like, we had a talk last week about how if you really want to fuck up an entire population and control them, keep them isolated. Yeah. And we're more isolated than we've ever been. And it's crazy. And it starts at home. And we had a whole nother podcast about this.
Like Lisa's brought up though too, is you've already been sexual in your life. So
good point.
Porn that
these are they aren't. And also it does create an endorphin release that they become incredibly addicted to. And then I've been interviewing young men who are now on the other side of recovery, and they had to not watch porn for a year to actually be able to come having sex with a woman.
No way.
Wow.
And this was by the time they were 18. They already realized like,
They're
I'm having
so
sex and I'm
desensitized.
so desensitized from, so I'm collecting these stories.
I don't
for
think I
this
could ever be
project.
desensitized,
They're
ever.
so desensitized
Not
from
this level.
watching so much that they're not satisfied with the girl that they can actually
Wow.
get, and they can't climax.
That's crazy.
And so then the girl's mad, you can't climax, so it becomes this thing. And it's very interesting. Some guys have been able to wean themselves, but these have been the most enlightening conversations, because to know that an 18-year-old has already had a social setback when it comes, like when we were 18, like I was meeting people and hooking up and having the time of my life.
Yeah.
I had no social skills problem, but we didn't have phones yet. We didn't have cell phones. So, you'd go to the mall, you'd stalk the kid that worked at the pretzel shop, and then his work schedule. And you'd be like,
some
I know
guy
he
at a
works
pretzel
on
shop in
Saturday. I'm
Pennsylvania.
going to go down to the Orange Julius and I'm going to see him. And I know he's there, and we're gonna make it happen. And you go to the roller. We'd go to the roller skating place, and we'd meet up at the roller skating place and do overnight skates. But to think of how much more social we were.
I used to get so nervous when they would do the slow skate song. And the guy had to
go
skate
backwards.
Oh my god!
Hold your head.
It used to stress me the fuck out.
I would get stressed because I'm like, because I was always the size of an adult male as a young girl. So like every guy my age was like a child, and I'm like, I'm 5'10", and so I would get scared and go against the wall. So no one talked to me.
You brought up all these. I am so intrigued by this whole genre now, and to find statistically is what we're doing. The reason I'm doing this research is the people I'm working with have a college professor, and that college professor is going to be doing mass focus groups. So through the questions that we ask, we're going to be able to give for the first time like a percentage of how many men under 18 are already living in incel life and how many men under 21. He's fascinated by how intimidated young boys are. Like the young guys when I was growing up, like, we're gonna try it. You know what I mean? We don't care if it works or not. We're gonna just try it, right? They're so intimidated to try it because they've been brainwashed by porn. The guy walks in the room, he's already hard. They don't know how the guy gets hard that quick. Well, the guy took something. He took Viagra. You know what I mean? He did something. And it's also shot and edited. So for these young people, their whole mind wrapped around, it's forcing them to be celibate.
Yeah.
I want to actually.
It's crazy to me.
And then there's like the no-fap culture. After that, you get into like these groups called no-fap, which is like you don't masturbate, and like there's forums on it. And I went down the rabbit hole one time because I saw like a post, and I was like, "What is this?" And then I just couldn't stop looking all day long.
Let me get that. But also to meet
Drop
young
the
men
jewel.
that are 18 to 21 that are virgins blows my
like what?
mind.
That's not a thing.
I'm like, you're not fucking? Like, you know what I mean? You
What kind of fucking life are you having?
You should be fucking all the time. I mean, your whole life should rely around fucking.
But like,
I mean, my whole life for years, that's all it relied around. Who am I
like in
gonna
high
be?
school, it was like every guy had his dick out
Still
at
what my
some
whole life
point,
revolves
right?
around.
Because they like couldn't help it, and you're like,
And these
I was
guys are
seeing
virgins, and I'm like, wow.
Chris gave me and Carson a pep talk last week. You guys should be fucking more. And then this weekend we're like, we fuck, dude. It's great.
They both went out and did what I
How old
said.
are you?
Asked girls out.
32.
dude, from like
But I haven't been on a date in like 3 years. It was this first time I ever like
COVID kind of fucked that shit up.
I was living with my ex at the time too. I had like a long-term girlfriend, and then I hadn't gone like asked a girl. And then I got diabetes, and I lived with my mommy and daddy. And then I was like,
Why'd you say mommy and daddy?
well, I had to. And so I like didn't do shit for a long time, and then
I don't think people have enough sex. Even in their 30s, like you get married and it gets normal, and you're like, I always tell her, I'm like, there's so many hot people who are wasting their hotness on not just destroying each other all the time. Like, why aren't you having?
When I was married and our
slaying a
sex
little.
life slowed down, I remember saying to him, like, what if we die tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is this
I'd
how we
feel
want to
cheated.
end it? That we didn't have sex for the last 3 days? Like,
Right.
it was driving me absolutely. What's the point of sharing a bed and feeling your fucking body heat and having to fucking deal with you? You know, I was having
I'm
a
gonna sleep
lot of
with
sex at your age, not just in the business, but I was a sexually curious girl. I was in a generation where we lived very freely. When I was married, though I wasn't
drive
with
still
other
high?
guys. It is still very high. Though I wasn't with other guys, we did a lot of group sex. We had a lot of couples. I like just being in a room with like 5 other couples having sex. I like watching people have sex. Like my life pretty much revolved around ecstasy and sex
And
for
I
like
think
10 years.
I think if people are being honest, first of all, if you're having trouble in your relationship, do ecstasy together
ecstasy
and hook up.
together.
Wait
It'll
till that
change your
happens.
marriage.
And
take
Holy-
baths.
Wait, don't you think though?
Put lotion on each other.
The baths.
Don't you think though that if more people were being fucking real and honest, that what you're saying? Because sometimes people think like even I'm too sexual, and you're like, no, dude, we're meant to be fucking like. I think people aren't sexual enough. Like you're wasting time. You're not exploring enough. You're not, and it's still taboo for some reason.
Like for all of you out there who would rather be talking your political bullshit on whatever news network you follow instead
Talk more
of
about-
fucking, I mean, get fucking.
Get to fucking.
Get fucked.
I want you this week to do this homework assignment for me. Write down how many hours you spent watching and talking about the news on social media. Okay.
Versus
Next week, look at that. Divide it in half. Take the other half of those hours and get on the fucking. Meet people. Make out. Touch. It all has to be consensual. Let me just close that. But like
Disclaimer.
I remember making out with dudes at clubs in the like 2005, 2010. I was in New York a lot with my friends, just going to clubs, and it was before I lived there. But I just loved the nightlife. It was so free. My girlfriends and I would go out dancing, and I'd be waiting for my girlfriends outside the bathroom. I'd just make out with some dude, and it was
awesome.
great.
Well, yeah,
You
and
know what I mean? It
Give
was
yourself
great.
forgive yourself, let go, accept that you're
Yeah.
sexual, and get after it.
Look, I have this. I now that we're getting back out again, like my feelers are on, right? So like, I go to this spot, the Ugly Duckling in New York. It's one of my friends' new spots. So I go there my first time for the Super Bowl, and there's this dude working the door. He's just fucking like tall, beautiful, smells like weed. Ding, 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 ding. His name's Terry. Right away, I'm like, so Terry, you love Mary, right? He's like, Mary who? I'm like, Mary Jane. I smell it on you, and I love it. I'm like, Terry, one day I'm going to climb you like a jungle gym, so just make sure, mark that down. You single? You're not married? No cheating? I'm good. He's like, no, we're single. So now, every time I'm with my girlfriends, we go by there. I'm like, hey, Terry.
Hey, boo.
It reminds you, be sexual
Yeah.
a bit, connect, flatter people.
I think you start to
flirt,
die. I think
flirt.
You do. You
I
start
think
to
you start to die, which is why men. I think I'm not a behavioral psychologist, but I'm guessing most men, when marriage gets comfortable, they start to go out and cheat because
Yep.
it's not happening in the relationship anymore.
Yep, it's too
and
much
it's just
work.
part of their fucking. And it makes you feel good. It changes everything. Yeah,
I think especially like men. Men have it's
women too, though. You want to feel
but
pretty.
men-
and
We
attractive.
do, but
When
men
you
need the
look-
validation
Yes.
to stroke their ego, to give them the purpose to continue to sling their dick around. It's just a thing. You
I
know
don't
what I
think
mean?
it's prehistoric
all
too.
about
Like,
validation.
our whole
Yeah.
DNA is about.
Sling
look
that
at
thing
this.
around.
You
Yeah.
like this, right? Look at
I mean,
this
if I
thing.
was a dude, I'd have been
Planting
to jail
seeds.
a couple of times, and I'd definitely be carrying a permanent STD. I'm just letting you know that right now. But as a
No,
woman,
hold on. I
in
would
fear
say-
of getting pregnant, it's very different.
I would say if I were a girl, I'd have an STD and have
fuck
multiple.
no, because I'm not. I don't like to. I'm
If I
not.
was a girl, I'd be having sex every 2
I never
hours.
Christine would be the
I
number
never
one
liked being on the
buyer of
pill.
birth control.
So when you're on the
Right.
pill, you have this excuse. The guy will ask like, "You're on the pill," and when I was on the pill, even though I never liked being on the pill because it just made me feel good, I would lie to him and say no because I didn't want him to think he couldn't use a condom.
Yeah.
But then I realized like being on the being in the pill is like a shortcut to not thinking about STDs. And my fear
You're fucking real.
of a child is so real. A spawn being pregnant is
spawn?
like the biggest get it out there in my life.
I was telling them a girl gave me a condom this
Rosemary's
weekend. I was like,
Baby,
what the
like,
fuck
get
is
it
this?
Oh
I've
my
never seen
God.
this.
Like if I'm 2 days late and I think maybe a
Sleep that
condom
out.
broke,
Panic.
I'm like spending
usually.
$80 on a
panic.
pregnancy
So,
test.
so Lisa, what is your type?
And you know what? I was just asked this question at another podcast, and I had to really think about it. I've come to realize something. I do not have a type. When I was married, the photo of my ex-husband is in my first book. Blue eyes, tall, like you,
Ding,
nice
ding.
white teeth. Just,
DJ's earrings, long hair.
but when I'm, it's kind of like if you're going out for like treats, right? If you're going out with your girlfriends,
I
you're
love
just,
that.
and you're
Treats.
just getting you're just going to go out for some maybe coffee and pastries. That's a very Parisian thing, or in Italy. If I'm going to go out for treats, I'm going to hook up with Terry at the bar and just climb on him like a thing. But if you over-surveyed my life and all the guys that I've been super intimate with and have lasting friendships, even once they get married, we no longer have sex, but we're still friends. They all look different. You could put them all in a room and be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is like, so to me, it's energy. It's
Yeah, dude.
how I connect with somebody's energy, how they treat other people. Like, it's never been a looks thing with me. It's
Yeah.
never been, he asked me, now look, I don't want to date somebody shorter than me, but I'm fucking short. So, you know what I'm saying?
really gotta try harder.
So there's that, so there's that. But
Energy's big.
energy is big.
We've talked a lot too. I was even telling you, bro, like and to any kid listening to this or person who's 21 or 25 and you're struggling with like how you look because the internet is not just porn, but Instagram. Like every time you flip through Instagram, it's like, I'm not good enough. I don't have abs. Dude, if you just own your shit,
Yeah.
like some of the best sex I've ever had was with a girl that we know who's most people would consider a bigger person, but she owned her shit so hard and was so sexy about it. I was like, to this day, it's still one of those moments where I was like, and I would tell anybody that if your energy's high and you own your thing, it's attractive.
And don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
You bring something completely unique to
Different.
the table.
Like-
You bring something, and that's you. And
Comparison's
every
the
one
thief of
us
joy.
Ooh.
Feats of joy.
Thief of joy.
Okay, that's so funny because my assistant, whenever somebody's awful to me, she's like, joy thief. That person
Yeah.
is just a joy thief.
Sounds like Lloyd.
And so thief of joy, so it's a joy thief. Like, and so we'll be in like a live chat and somebody's just annoying. She'll text like joy thief. Should I put him in a timeout?
Seriously.
YouTube, joy thief. But yeah, own it. But I do think we're missing out. I think porn has distracted people from actually.
Would you say women too?
Women too. Women are more insecure than ever. I thought the interview with Billie Eilish on Howard Stern was so moving.
What'd she say?
She watched porn so young that it fucked her up. She started at like 11 just because she found it and couldn't
Sure.
stop watching it and got into that adrenaline rush of it. And that it made her compare herself to what other women in the scenes look like. And it made her uber insecure. And she started getting into the more violent stuff. And then when she was with guys, she was letting them do things to her that she didn't want because she thought that's what men wanted now from the porn that she watched.
Did you see that Dave Portnoy sex tape?
Yeah, that's
It's
the
horrifying.
snippet of it. Okay, it is, but
No, he's being like super. I mean, to your point of like where it starts to.
But let me just say this on his behalf and on anybody that has a kink. If that tape didn't get out, we wouldn't know their kink. And I
No,
knew
no, no.
a lot of like really, distinguished judges and lawyers who had like dungeon rooms in their house. I mean, look how Billion started out on the first
Yes.
episode.
Yeah.
Wendy
Yes.
peeing on.
That was hot.
That was so hot.
That was hot.
So
Yeah.
it did look rough, but she might have been really into that too. And that was something that, like, again,
I'm with you.
That
We
Dude.
talked
is-
about that because I said that was, she never came out and,
And good
said,
for her.
I didn't
She
want
didn't.
that. So there was an agreement of like, I'm going to see
But
that.
that's revenge
I'm
porn
gonna see
straight
that.
up. Somebody
Yeah.
released that and we don't know who and we don't know why.
Right.
And it's never right. Like, look, I never talk about a guy that I'm with. I never share my bedroom secrets with another guy. You never want a guy to feel insecure. You never want to tell stories. And I also don't kiss and tell.
Do you find guys get insecure with you?
I do, but I can tell from the second I meet them whether they're going to or not.
How?
There's just a confidence that they show me that it doesn't matter.
And do you know the confidence before you go to bed with them, or
I
is
do.
it so you could just tell right away?
I can just tell right away. you know, and it's just a weird thing that you can sense where they're looking at you like, I'd love to try it, but I don't know if I'd succeed. And the other guy's like, I'm going to do this.
I
Terry
got this
and
shit.
I are going to get it in this
Fuck
summer.
yeah, Terry.
Okay?
Terry, where the fuck are you, bro?
Come on, dude.
Terry.
I need to build a fresh roster post COVID in the city of people who work different shifts that, like, you know, because I'm very, very, you know, it's a trust thing at my building, like who I want to let in my apartment, who I want to let in my bed. Like, that's a thing. On the road, it was so easy to hook up with randoms because I was in a hotel, had a security guy. I would have my security guy meet them in the lobby and give them like a come to Jesus conversation in the elevator. Like, I'm going to knock in
What was
2
his
hours and
name?
check on you guys. I had a couple different
The
security
one
guys.
that was like your original.
What was his name?
Sledge.
Yes.
Sledge.
Wow.
Well,
What's his name?
I will
What
tell
a
you this: when
sick
Sledge
name.
and I
I
were
love
driving,
him, but I don't know him.
when Sledge and I were on the road, I was not hooking up with randos because I was such a beginner. We had to share a hotel room, and we actually had to drive. Clubs wouldn't even pay my flights yet, so we
By the way-
drove cross country to all of my bookings.
I love that.
By the way,
How fun, though.
We had so much fun.
How
He was,
fun.
and he's still alive, and we talk on the regular. Our secret thing on the road was we would do this thing where one of us would
where
go,
you were-
Beoop. So Beoop was our thing where he would
That's
see
going to be all weekend.
if I'd be on stage and somebody was super creepy and he was in the back, I'd stand in front of the guy dancing and I'd scream the Beoop thing,
Can we
right?
make that a button?
Just thinking that,
Beoop.
dude.
Can we make that a button,
and then-
Lisa?
Give us a clean beep.
Beoop. 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 We would do them all night. The club owners were like, what is this? Like 50 times a night. He'd see somebody that had like a ton of money that I should be dancing for. And he'd stand behind the guy and give a beoop. We text each other beoop. Like that's how
so
we reconnect.
cute.
That's amazing.
He was so fun to travel with. But what were you going to say? You were asking about hooking up?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Driving on the road was fun, though.
Oh, no, that dude.
bet.
One of the hottest parts of your book is when you were walking around in the fur coat with nothing underneath. So hot.
And we traveled with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar back then. I had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Sledge didn't smoke. So it was his job because it was too tall. I had to stand.
He lit it.
So he would light it. He'd go to the ice machine at the shit hotel, put the ice in the bong for us. I left it with a DJ in San Francisco
You
when
better
I
be
did my
treating
last
that well.
gig at that club where I
Crazy
was
Horse?
in. Yep.
You better be
And
treating that thing with some respect.
I know, right? That thing. And we were
Now
so
called Meta World Peace.
I'll tell you what, before 9/11, even flying, but driving more, we had that thing strapped in a seatbelt in the back seat. Nobody was afraid to carry weed. We would carry, the girls on the road, we would carry a pound of weed in our suitcases in your checked bag because they
That was
didn't
back when
check.
you got like prison
That was
for weed.
before 9/11.
Like when you had a seed of weed.
But they
yeah.
didn't check your bag for shit like that. But then 9/11, they started checking your bags. Like, what are we going to do? We started shelling out the peanut butter container.
Oh, yeah.
Then we started a network of DJs on the road. Like, yo, I know this DJ can hook you up when you get there. Like, it became part of the task of the road.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Do you find that because you're so well known now that you have to approach most guys, or do you still get approached?
I do the approaching because I feel like I should choose at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like I should get to
I have the
choose.
right now.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But if somebody approaches me, the only approach they can make is if they make it with somebody that I know. Like if somebody approaches me solo with no trusted resource, but if they know a friend of mine and my friend introduces me, then I
Always
feel
the
like
move, yeah.
because then there's a credible source
Yeah,
in case
yeah.
Well, I know
something
how to
goes.
find you.
But what was funny was today on my flight here, so I did a layover in Charlotte, which is my favorite airport to
It's a
lay
great
over.
airport, yeah.
All the rocking chairs
Great
were full
airport.
today. I was so geeked. I was
sucks.
so, and I get stupid shit done
If you
on
guys
layover.
haven't been there, they line all the front windows in every
I
terminal.
have white rocking chairs
I
with
went in-
real
I
plants.
landed one time when
I love
nothing
it.
was open,
I
and
love
I
it.
slept in one.
So I get on my flight from Charlotte. This guy sits down next to me, probably a couple years older than me. Super nice, you know, he's chatting, whatever. And at no point did I think he knew who I was because I had my mask on, you know. And then I had a water and some snacks, and then I took my nap. And then we wake up. We're talking as we're getting off the plane, and he's like, "Well, it was really nice to meet you, Lisa Ann." And I was like, "Oh my God!" The whole time he knew it was me,
Yeah.
and it was a bizarre. Like I just thought he wasn't creepy, but it's just the fact that he said it out loud before I
Yeah.
even extended my hand, and said, "Hi, my
Do
name
you
is."
almost feel weird in that moment that he didn't shoot a shot? Like,
No, I just feel like I still live in a fantasy land that I should get to introduce myself to people and be like, "Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm
yeah.
from New York City." You know
Right.
what I mean?
And they're like, I know.
Yeah, right. It's the me not knowing everybody knows, and sometimes I just want to have that
I don't know
natural
you.
conversation
Yeah.
where I think like, oh, this dude doesn't know me.
But you're the goat.
Great.
So
Guess what?
You
He
know-
knew me. Yeah, we've been together before. I just wasn't really there.
you have helped me through a lot.
Is that ever weird for you still? Like, I know you're probably used to it at this point, but like, do you, when you walk into a room, do you feel like if there's guys in there, they're all thinking it?
I know they're all thinking it, but what's been interesting about this, say, generation of, I want to say like 25 to like your age, like 30 to
32.
above, little 33, 34,
34.
because of first generation
Two, bro.
of really getting porn on the internet, they're all more, their gratitude level is different. They're like, you know, you helped me through my formidable years. Like, you taught me so much. Like, when I was broke on laundry night at college, I would look forward to seeing you on
That's
Friday.
awesome.
So the conversations are different and more open. It's the younger generation that's actually the weirdest
Weird
about
about
it
it,
because
yeah.
they're obsessed that the internet is real and that one day they're going to live on Meta and never have to leave their home or shower ever again.
That's
You know,
So they're like shocked that you're out of a computer room.
yes, they're like, whoa,
You're here?
But it's something that I had to learn to process because remember, when I got into the industry, there was no internet.
Do you think it's still hot though? Like when you walk in a room and know people are thinking it, is it still like sexy or is it like?
I never think of it that way. I never think of it that way. I'm always thinking about my safety. Like, I hope one of these people doesn't take it too far. I don't. You know, it was just my living for so long and what I did. I don't really think to this day, like maybe I have my own case of imposter syndrome because I don't see myself as a famous person. And like even the guys at my building, when they finally saw me without a mask for the first time, put two and two together and figured out who I was, I wanted to have a serious conversation with them about it. Like, yo, we've been cool. Don't creep
Yeah.
on me. Be guarded with me. I will fucking hella tip you always and take care of you, but protect me and be my friend, you know?
Yeah.
And so we've got this great thing going. They're like, you just don't act famous. And like,
don't.
we've got
You
people
really
that are a
don't.
lot less famous than you that treat us like shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, before I'm famous, I'm a human being.
Yeah. Why do you think it never got to your head? Because I mean, again, you are the GOAT. You're really famous, and you're one of the sweetest people I've ever met. I mean, even your story about Gina already knows about the mittens. Getting her like a present and coming out here and her books and just the signatures and like you just went above and beyond. Like, have you always been this sweet? It seems like you have been.
I have been. It was Peggy, my neighbor growing up. Every way she lived, I wanted to live like her. And I know that she made me understand
But you've
that
been
your
through some brutal
legacy
shit, too,
lives
like-
forever. And what do you want your legacy to be? And I want my legacy to be more than
Yeah.
being famous. I want it to be that the people that actually spent time with me were moved by me and felt loved by me and feel warmth
awesome,
of me
yeah.
and know they can come to me and that we can have
Do you think-
difficult conversations.
Yes.
Do you think that's why? And I want to get into this more, but I do want to talk more about hooking up and sex and stuff. But do you think it's part of the reason why your brand has really transitioned so well? Like, not only are you the GOAT in the industry that you were in, but you've transitioned it so well. And in the book, like, I can't wait to get into that about empowering women and people who, I know a ton of people who are, as we started doing this podcast, we'd have entrepreneurs reach out to us. We would be like, I'm stuck. I want to leave this business that I'm in and move on. I can't wait to get into that part of the conversation of you moving on. But do you think you being such a nice, loving person has helped you continue to build that brand?
I think being grounded is great in any business, right? So not letting myself get above that ground, being grounded,
Yeah.
sure, because I wasn't afraid to say I'm a nobody in fantasy sports. I've got to start from the ground up and study my ass off and get good at this.
Yeah.
And I like that challenge.
Will you be in our
too.
FitSoda Fantasy League next year?
Yeah.
So mad because I auto drafted and kicked his ass.
Isn't it wild when that happens?
But he didn't realize either that I'm like, I'll auto draft, but I'm sneaky.
She was doing my lineups and shit because
I'm
I got
so good at lineups. So good at lineups.
I'm obsessive. So if I really get into fantasy, it'll consume my life.
And then you'll make too many. You'll tinker much. You'll tinker yourself
Yeah.
Yep. Sunday morning, you'll make that last minute switch. You'll watch the game, be like, "Who did I even have in?" And then you realize you took out the player that got in the end zone. You left
I
the scrub.
fixed his one because I was like, this is shit. So
Yeah.
I just got in his computer and I was like, get this
But
guy on
also
the
remember
bench.
something. This was a way to make a living and to satisfy my 3 goals that I set for myself at 16, which was to be 1, financially secure, 2, travel and see the world, and 3, make my own schedule.
Yeah.
Those were it. Those were the only 3 things I wanted for my life.
So backing up to your first book, when you moved to LA, I know you were excited, but was there a ton of fear there too? Like, because even your story, like some of your stories leading up to that are just intense.
I was not afraid. I probably should have been afraid. The dead body in Philly.
Yeah, you have all these amazing, like crazy.
Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
and then you're like
cuffed and stuff.
You moved to LA, and there's this really nice guy, Peter.
Yeah, Peter Davey.
Peter, who kind of took you in.
Took such good care of me. Was never.
By the way, I
creepy.
think your first scene is so hot. The fact that I think it's so sexy that people were like watching and you were.
Oh
vibing
yeah,
out. So
everyone's
hot.
sitting on the lawn. I'll never forget that day. I'm so glad that it was different. That everybody watched. They would sit there with their sandwiches,
That's
maybe
hot.
sitting
That's
there.
sexy.
You'd look out and see them all kind of, happy.
And the description of getting to the valley and you're just like getting amped, and then it was kind of funny. You're like, it's all strip malls, which reminds me of Colorado Springs. It's all like tobacco shops and dry
Coming
cleaners.
from a small town, I was like, how do all these places stay in business? How many nail salons do you need? Oh, I didn't realize there were millions of people that lived here, but so many
you weren't
strip
scared
malls.
at all. And what's amazing about that story, I think, like I moved here when I was 23 and I had, I'd already had some business experience, but I still was a little bit hesitant. Once I got here, but I felt alone a lot, I think for a young woman at that age to move all the way to LA is such a big, bold move. Do you think already at a young age, because it sounds like you were hustling young, but like, who taught you that like sturdiness? Like most people don't even leave home now when they're 34. Matt's 34.
I moved to LA when I was 24. I'm not gonna lie, I did.
I wanted a fresh start, and I already knew, I wrote in my first book, growing up in a small town is like being stuck on a cruise ship. You run into the same people all the time, and there's no new faces.
Old
and it's the
Huntington's
same fucking people
call it the
over and
bubble.
over. Yeah. And so I wanted to get out of that more than I was afraid. I was more afraid to stay in that bubble than I
This is it
was
for me?
to take a chance. I bought a one-way ticket. I was like, this is do or die, bitch, okay? You are going there. Because I couldn't get away from the family,
family.
the
It
people,
was like-
my
No, but
hometown.
even your stories about like the first shoot and just getting out there, like I think a lot of people would have gone into themselves and not been as active and open. Your story about the cowboy boots is hilarious.
I wore them everywhere for like my first couple of months.
I don't know why you stopped wearing them, to be honest with you. I don't know why you stopped.
You guys have a landline, right? In case something happens.
I mean, I look back at all those photos and I'm like, oh man, and I had so many pair too, every color, you know what I mean? Like cowboy boots with everything. But yes, I did Californiaize myself a bit, but I did bring my
But
Pennsylvania.
you did such a good job though too of like, I just feel like, I guess what I'm getting at is there's a wisdom to you even at 17 that I don't think people have now at 40. Do you know what I mean? I guess what I'm asking is, where did you already have that wisdom? Okay, examples being like, I knew I needed to be in Huntington with that other guy that smoked weed who you first kind of had your first porn crush on. But you knew you kind of needed to get away from the scene.
Yeah.
I don't think most people would have done that. Like if it were me at your age.
He talked to me though, and I took his advice.
No, you didn't know, but that makes you wise though.
I listened. I did. I was always a good listener.
If it were me, I would have been the absolute party animal drug addict at 18.
Quite a few of my friends that I
Do you know
brought
what I'm
out
saying?
that wanted to get in the business, they fell right into that.
Where did you get the wisdom at that age?
So,
though?
I was lucky. My grandparents on my mom's side, they had a greeting card business. My grandfather was from Italy. My grandmother was from Saskatchewan, Canada. She was working at the White House, and my grandfather was in the military. He was also a World War II photographer, and he was also working at the White House. And they met, and they used to read a newspaper together. I have some really cute photos of them on this bench at the White House. And after World War II, my grandmother made my grandfather change his last name. It was Giordano. She made him change it to Gordon because they wanted to start a business together, and she didn't believe that he would be taken seriously as an Italian. His name was Tullio Giordano. He changed his name to Tom Gordon. I didn't know this until my grandfather was in a nursing home.
That's a life tip to you guys. There's a guy on our team who changed his name because he knew he wasn't getting like interviews even today. Yeah. Guys,
that's a thing.
And then we keep calling different names.
Yeah, I call him. What do I call him?
Cal.
Cal? Oh, Cal.
Cal.
So they had a motorhome.
Savage move by them.
They had a motorhome
Smart.
that they built into a little distribution center. My grandfather would design the cards, and they were their own sales team. My grandmother would take a map. She'd map out the trips. My grandfather would go into all these locations south of the border, Florida, all these little quirky greeting cards. And over the summers, they let us come with them. And my brother didn't like to travel, so I got to go a lot. and they would take me up to Canada as well. And so I would watch them. I would watch my grandmother with the maps. She was a great navigator. My grandfather wasn't. I would watch my grandmother with it. My grandfather was hustle selling.
And so that rubbed off on you.
And I would watch, my grandmother did the books, so she handled all the money. And I was watching this business as a kid, and it gave me freedom to travel. They strapped my bike onto the back of the motorhome, and we always stayed at KOA campgrounds, and I would like be independent. Like, okay, this is my time. Cruising around on my bike, and then I'd get back, we'd have fire and popcorn, you know, all of that. Like, that was, I looked at them as like the two most independent people I knew because they weren't working for anybody else. My dad worked for someone else. My mom worked for someone else. My grandparents were really taking out a map and deciding where they wanted to go to sell these cards. And I was fascinated by them. And I learned, and my grandmother showed me money, how to do the books. Everything was handwritten back then.
Yeah.
You know, everything was, but it was detailed. Every week we'd close out, and then my grandfather's cost and this, that, if something broke with the motorhome. That was, as a young girl, I was intrigued, and they didn't treat me like a child.
Yeah.
They shared
That's
those
important
lessons.
Gina and
So
I have had this
important.
conversation a ton of times. I think people are too soft on kids. I don't think you should beat them or hit them. You know what I mean?
But teach them how not to lean on you, but stand on their own.
like,
That's
if
like good parenting.
I'm going to
or
have
leadership
a lot of money
in
one
general.
day, and if I have kids, they're going to work. I'm not there to be your friend. I'm here to.
Charles Barkley's like, I'm rich. My kids aren't rich. I'm rich, he says. You know.
You got to. I wish my parents would have been tougher on me and taught me harder lessons.
My
and,
grandfather made me learn my way around a toolbox. He would have these conversations with me as a young girl that he did not want me to be afraid to be a girl. He wanted me to know that if I was living alone and I had a pipe break, that I could fix it just like a boy could.
Yeah.
He taught me how to change a tire. He taught me how to change the oil and do
Can you
electrical
still change
work.
a tire?
I still could if I had to. But that was confidence building. I wasn't afraid to go into a woodworking class and do something. He did not, my grandfather was very ahead of his time and didn't want me to see a gender situation where I felt weak as a woman. He wanted me to feel just as strong, if not stronger than a man.
Was he a military guy?
He was.
Yeah.
And
She
you know
was
what?
just discussing. Your dad's a lot like this, where
Sorry, I had to fix my contacts.
Oh, really?
you didn't have to pee 8 times like I did.
No, I was like getting stuck, and I was like,
Stay hydrated. FitSoda.
Stay hydrated.
Make you pee.
Yeah,
not a
no, I just think it's with all the temptation you had. Yeah, I think one of the things that I got out of the book is like I kept putting it down, going. She was so wise and kind of attuned already to certain things that I don't think people even. I would have fallen apart. I would have.
But I got to tell you, the high, you know, everybody was like, oh my God, how did you not fall into drugs? I'm like, do you not see that my life was a total high? The fact that I'm going on these
That's a good
sets
point.
and shooting these scenes
good
and
point.
being in this elaborate house and doing all of these
Your
things
life
with
is-
people. I'm traveling to different countries to have dinners
Like, I
at
don't need
tables
Coke, I just
with people that
had sex on
barely
camera.
speak English that I'm sharing food with. Like, I was living such elevated experiences that on my free time, I just wanted to chill in my friend's backyard with their dog, smoke some weed, and be totally
That's where I
chill.
get a tan.
I was living the
Hanging out on the
high
beach.
of my
Yeah.
going to these trade shows and you know
Again, going back to this idea, don't you think it's like I've openly talked on this podcast about doing mushrooms and hallucinogens, and I'm a big believer in all those. And oftentimes when I do them, I always go, I feel bad for people who've never done this.
You know, my
you
best
feel
friend
bad that
says to me, I can't relate to anybody who has never drank or done drugs.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah.
There's something
I'm with her.
wrong with them. She can't. She can't trust them.
You're creepy.
And she can't trust them.
You're a creep.
And also, they're not curious. See,
Yeah.
you
You
need
don't
to
wanna
be
know what
curious
else
in
is
life
there.
to be thoroughly alive.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't like something, that's okay.
But backing up to sex though, that's like, I feel bad for most couples who don't even, like, you can't even, like, if you have a dinner party and you're like, hey, we're swingers, or hey, we're into bondage, or hey, we watch people have sex because it turns us on. It almost makes people turn off. And I feel like that's just, people are missing out on this huge chunk of life that God gave us. It's right there. It's free for the most part.
Do you know what's great?
And it can be this really fulfilling thing that you're just not, and it blows my mind that people aren't.
I love doing trade shows. I'm going to do some shows. I'm going to do some exoticas this year because it's always a great time with my book. And I just got a cameo the other day from a woman that I met, her and her fiance, at an exotica in 2017.
What's an exotica?
It's a trade show in the adult industry. They're kind of like a porno garage sale. So we get to set up a table and sell whatever we want.
Get that domain too.
Yeah. Whoa, you motherfucker.
Let's go.
You
Porno garage sale?
Garage sale.
I always call it
Can
porno
you
garage
sell
sale.
old, like you should sell old
We're gonna
VHS.
sling these
Any
.com
old
days.
VHS, like
Write it down.
Anything you want to sell, you can sell there. Okay. So couples
She owns
come,
it.
Bro.
And what's super cool is couples coming together and then them staying in touch with you. Like that's their outlet. Like they do watch content together. They get to meet their porn star that they enjoy you.
But
and
isn't that
in the-
exciting for a relationship? Is
Totally. In the
because
message-
then you get to see weird shit too. Where you're like, you watched that? Where you're like, okay, let's
No, but
watch
hold
it
on,
together.
hold on.
Or
So
this is hot. Let's
one of my
try
good
it.
friends got divorced, and I've talked about this on the podcast too. Because again, I'm very open in relationships. I'm open in terms of like telling people what I want, and, on and on and on. But like, I know they got divorced because he couldn't even go to his wife and go, A, I'm not getting it from you, and B, these are all the things that I'm thinking of. I need you to either help me settle these in the bedroom or let me get it somewhere else.
Also, why would
don't
you
even-
want
couples
to
can't
know
even talk
what
to
your
each other.
partner's into? Where you're
Even
like,
if it's
tell me.
weird though.
But that's very common.
It is.
You know, people fall into this romanticized stage of a relationship. Then the parents get involved and start talking about them getting
Marriage and
married.
babies.
And the next thing you know, you've gotten on this kind of cycle, this wheel, this hamster wheel. You jumped
Then
right
they
the
have
fuck
kids,
on.
which divides it even further.
And then it's even harder. And now there's more responsibilities. And now somebody's always tired and somebody's always cranky and you don't have a lot of money. And you have just put yourself in this shackles, right? You're just
Yeah,
shackled into
it
it.
sucks.
And then you can't erase the 7 years you didn't tell your girl you want her finger in your butt.
Right.
Like you can't just bring that up now. You know what I mean? Because you never brought it up before. Everything was honky dory.
It's sad. It's really sad.
There's no
that-
safety in it. Like, why isn't there safety? You love this person, but you can't tell them.
No, that goes back to the earlier conversation we were having about like how people try to manipulate each other. You were talking about your friend and her parents and they're not accepting because people are. It's weird to me that you can't go to your wife and be like, I saw a guy get milked on Pornhub and I want to try it. It's weird that you can't even say that without feeling guilty or weird or. It's so weird
We
to
are
me how
that
taboo
afraid
sex
to be
is.
honest.
But then also at the same time going, that's not for me, but
I'll do it to
you
you.
want to try it. Or like, you know, I want to pee
But
on
it's
you.
that
I'll go
fear.
over the
It's
street. I
that
want to pee
fear
on
of
you. And you're
being
like,
judged.
I guess.
It's
like,
that
Right.
fear of shame. It's that fear of being judged when you're honest. It's that fear
Which
of
also
shame.
goes back to guys, be open, let it out,
Yeah.
let it go.
Be who you are. But,
But then
meeting
who knows,
couples
like, what
always
happens
made
if
me.
you told someone and
And
then that she was like,
Some of the couples that come in are in their like late 60s, early 70s, and they've been going to these
I
trade
love
shows
it.
for like 30, 40 years
That's
together.
so
I love it.
cute.
How
and,
cute
and
is that?
it makes me so happy because
How
I'm like,
cute is that?
yes, I know you guys are happy sexually.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have an outlet. This is fun for you. They go and they collect photos, then they go home and they look at all the photos they took with the girls during the day. Like,
How fun.
Fucking rock out. That gives me a lot of faith in people when I do that.
Are these so
in
that
relationships too, where you're like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, I want to
Yeah,
be you
I
at
know.
70. How fun.
I want to go to an exotic. Is it Exotica?
They had one in Denver, so I think like every other year they do it in Denver. I'll let you know. The schedule this year is
Yeah, fits on the
Chicago.
sponsorship. They need to stay
Yeah.
hydrated, you know?
You
when
do.
they that.
Chicago,
I mean-
Miami, New Jersey, DC is this year, and New Jersey's the biggest show. It's their original show. It's like 10 some plus years in, but it's better than AVN. AVN used to be the
I
big
was
show
just
where all the
about to
fans.
ask you, is AVN like still the jam? Is it still
It's not
fun?
really because it's not as fan friendly. It's very expensive. And as a performer, it is the one place where you feel the most judged the entire year. It is the most stressful event. It's very
You had a
competitive.
bad
everyone's like-
experience there.
Multiple bad experiences.
What was your worst experience at the AVNs?
Somebody putting something in my drink.
What do you mean, like drugs?
Yeah. And
Like
like, listen,
roofies, like bad
I like
ones?
drugs. Just let me know I'm going to take them. You know what I mean? Give me a heads up. You know, why waste
By the way,
it?
drink up.
Just why,
Oh, P.S.
why waste it when you're preparing me? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, because my security guy had to carry me out of there, and then he sat in the room with me till I woke up the next day, and I felt fine. You know, when you get something put in your drink, you feel fine the next day. There's no hangover. It's clean. Normally, you throw up a couple times. I just don't like the pressure of.
What would you? Sorry.
And also, it's when I see the most girls doing the most drugs that are becoming
I bet
destructive.
there's-
It's the darkest time for me.
I bet the
it
parties
affects
that-
me on every angle.
I bet the parties at AVN are not like bananas. What would
They
you,
are.
What would you tell a young couple right now if you want to have better sex, be more connected? What would you tell them?
Well, you can see sexual therapists now, which is a really cool thing. You can do it online or in person. I would say start to explore slowly by looking at photos, but making sure that you're both in the comfort that there's a place for you to be intimate with just each other, because women can get very insecure once you open Pandora's box, that now he's not satisfied with just her.
Meaning, so if a guy goes, hey, babe, I'd like to do X, and she goes, oh man, I've never even thought about that. Is that all you want?
Or no, maybe they do. So maybe they hook up with a girl on vacation, right? And they had a great time. But now she's worried every time they go on vacation, it's not going to be for just them anymore. It's going to be to hunt down another girl.
Are we going on vacation just because?
Right. You got to set your boundaries. You got to be always, like, once you open, you got to be as open about your communication.
Wouldn't you agree it's like that in any great relationship? Take sex out. That you're always talking about boundaries, that you're always being open, that you're always talking about your feelings, that you're always, I don't even think people do that. And then they try to be intimate and it's just terrible.
I've asked so many of my married friends that have been married for years if they've ever watched porn together, and it's blown me away that they haven't. I'm like, oh my God, I love watching porn with somebody, but mind you, I have to watch foreign porn.
Yeah.
I watch Mark Dorcel. That's my favorite porn to watch.
Like
and it's like a once in a while thing with this guy that I've hung out with forever. And it's not every time we get together, but certain times in a nice hotel, right away I'll go to the where they got let's rent the 24-hour loop. That's a block of porn. I like the conversation that it gets it going.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a couple cocktails. It just elevates everything.
Yeah.
But it's just being decadent once in a while. It's like adding on that extra big dessert after a really nice dinner. You're still going to go out for that nice dinner all the time, but you might not be that decadent. Make it a once in a while thing.
We're going to have a decadent one on Saturday.
I can't wait. Revisit it. But sex should be something that is special and that you talk about and that you are admiring and that you're ready to do in different places. Don't be boring and just do it in your bed. Do it in your shower. Do it in the kitchen.
What about when it does get stale?
That's when you got to work at mixing it up. For women, buy lingerie. There's not a guy ever that doesn't love lingerie.
Yeah.
For guys, the trick for men is very different. All a man has to do to get extra sex is to handle some of the things that are weighing down his significant other, whether it's chores, laundry, whatever. Like Valentine's Day, I go on all the sports radio shows and give tips. And I tell all the guys to do chores.
Imagine.
And they're always like, that shit fucking works. My wife went to work. I came home 1 hour early. I cleaned the whole place. She came home. What'd she want to do? I go, she want to fuck you.
She dropped her pants, didn't she?
She want to fuck you because she wasn't worried about other things. So it's different what turns on the different sex, right? The different partner.
Right.
But men need to take a different step. It's more, a woman might be offended if a guy decides, I'm just going to buy her lingerie and throw it on the bed. She might be like, what the fuck is that all about?
Which most morons would do. And then they'd be offended.
And then the wrong size.
What?
Right.
Where you're like, I'm not a
But
teal.
like sex shops are a great place to go, say once a month, wander around as a couple. When I used to do signings, I'd see couples all the time and I could see them, just getting to know each other by looking at different things. You don't have to buy anything, but just looking at different toys, different lubes, different things. Go into a sex shop, go into a sex trade show, whether it's an Exotica or whether I'm going to one in Switzerland this year. I cannot wait.
Where in Switzerland?
Zurich. Oh, I can't wait. It's my first time.
Have you been to Switzerland?
Not yet.
It's
I cannot
pretty
wait.
amazing.
I cannot wait.
It's like a postcard.
Yeah.
Every time you look out the window, you're like, what's happening here?
Yeah, like Alaska.
Does everyone else know that this place is real?
It's real. But
real
a
quick,
sex shop is a great place to discover.
Switzerland over Alaska is that you're just near all those other places, so you can go to like Italy.
Oh, Lake Como, yeah. You can go anywhere you
Alaska's,
go.
you're like, I'm just in Alaska.
But
now.
I loved Alaska. I had a great 10-day trip to Alaska.
I bet. So you're saying that's the thing about life. I tell this analogy to my team all the time and to people is life is like the dog laying on the nail. Do you know the story?
No.
So this guy goes to his homie's house and they're on the porch drinking natty lights and he looks over and he's got
FitSodas.
Why? Why must I spill? Why must I be so
cut
into
that out.
listening?
It's FitSoda. It
That's
goes
why I
everywhere.
wear
It's
black.
delicious. We've killed like 10.
That's why we
12.
wear black.
So they're sitting on the porch. Guy's got a dog. It's an old bloodhound. And every now and then the dog lets out a whimper. It goes, beep. And the guy goes, why is the dog beeping? And he's like, oh, well, he's in pain. And then he waits a little bit longer. The dog beeps and moans again. And the guy goes, why does he keep crying, dude? And the guy goes, well, he's laying on a nail. And the guy goes, well, why doesn't he get off the nail? And he goes, because it doesn't hurt bad enough. And that's most people's lives. You're laying on the nail and it doesn't hurt bad enough. And I think it takes a curious person in general to be like, babe, let's go to an Exotica seminar
of
without
the
someone
best
melting
books-
down, without a wife or a guy being like,
Stay Curious. One of the best books I ever read. A great book. Talking
should
about
get
the
t-shirts
power
made that say,
of
"Stay curious."
curiosity and just being curious. And,
all the time.
And also like that same curiosity, if it's sexual, also don't be judgmental. Don't
Huge. Wait,
don't,
that's huge.
Don't
Did
attach
everyone hear that?
shame. Don't be
If
judgmental.
If you have a partner you're lucky enough to be around a curious person, don't shit on them.
Don't
they-
Not
don't,
just sexually. Like if
You'll
they want to
kill
play
it.
the piano or like learn a language,
don't
let them
shit
run.
on them.
Yeah,
don't shit on them.
Because the one partner, your love, the person you trust,
We'll come
when
back
you
to you,
shit
Matty.
on that,
I'm good.
then you don't ever
You gotta
want
talk about your ex.
You're never going to
She was
open
the
up
most
again.
judgmental, and she was in the industry.
And she was judgmental.
Yeah.
Such a weird thing to
It was
believe.
ve- yeah,
We have no room to
Speaking of
judge.
which-
Sorry, we gave up those rules.
Do you think
You signed that away.
OnlyFans it's changed the game, right? Like
For the better.
for the better.
Because it's given the performer the power to
I
make
made
their own
50
income.
grand on that shit.
Fuck yes, my friend. It's given the performers the choice to work for companies if they want to now. They're
Wait,
not
so the
just,
companies are still producing the content?
there are still companies producing, but like when talent couldn't be producing their own content and at the ease of OnlyFans and creating these great profiles, they might have been shooting, if somebody that doesn't feature dance or doesn't do other things, 20 times a month. And out of those 20 times, 10 of the people suck that you work for.
Right.
They're assholes, but you're working. It's a job
Sure.
at that point. So you got to take it. Those people have gotten completely weeded out.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not even in existence anymore. And it's given performers a chance to be like, I go on set once a week and then I like creating my own content. You know what they're putting up on their page they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
It's fully consensual because they're doing it. It's also teaching them to be young entrepreneurs.
Right.
They have to manage their time. They have to manage their content. They have to manage their paperwork. They have to label things. Once in a while, OnlyFans will hit you up and say, I need these IDs. I need this paperwork. 'Cause
Right.
they're staying on top of making sure everything's legitimate. And it's forcing. And now I'm interviewing so many young performers that I haven't met yet that I'll get to meet at these trade shows this year. And they are young. They're editing. They're doing everything themselves. They're young business women. They're just bosses already. And
Yeah.
they're 22, 23, 24. They can do anything. And they're not stupid.
What do you
They're on YouTube making content as well to push things over to here. They're video gaming on Twitch. Like this multiple streams of income they have going is so powerful. Whereas before you were going somewhere hoping to get a check at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you think so we had a debate with a friend once who has a girlfriend who did really well on Instagram, and then it was like, well, I'm going to do an OnlyFans and only do photos. I'd love to get your opinion on his thought was that if she goes down that road, she'll just go to porn. Like that's it.
I don't know if you're going to make enough money doing photos without going to porn.
Thank you.
And if you're dabbling that, look, when you think of OnlyFans, you think of the water drops emojis, right?
Right.
Like when I'm loading my content, because I use OnlyFans to recycle my entire library. So you go to Lisa Ann Fans, drops into my OnlyFans and all my 30 years of content. And then sometimes I'll shoot like something, me taking a shower or whatever, and I'll sell it in the direct message. Like every once in a while, I'll feel like
So you still
sassy.
make sometimes fresh content.
Sometimes, but it's just solo stuff. Me,
feeling
just,
it.
I'm just feeling like sassy that day, and I'm like, I'm feeling lean today. But I call it slinging. So when I'm talking to my assistant, I'm like, I'm slinging, and then I put the watermarks, and she's always like, they gotta masturbate. Like we're making sure there's always something going up every single day. So she's going down that rabbit hole, right? And he's
Yeah.
not comfortable with
Right.
it. And the problem is, we've trained the customer base in OnlyFans to be asking for more.
Right.
So they're going to ask her for more. Like, you know what the number
So it
one
would
thing
get
I'm
stale,
asked for is dick ratings.
I was gonna say that. Guys sending you dick pics.
And they want them rated.
Really?
And for
Yeah.
me, it's
You
like,
can charge for ratings.
yeah, $100 just for words. You can get like $250 for a video.
Oh, I know.
Sling it. You got to sling that. You got to. So, yeah, that's a thing. But if she can make enough money doing it with just photos, I'm curious to see, is there enough money to be made on
I'm not
OnlyFans?
part of that, and I would say no.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's like you have to
Unless
constantly.
you're Larissa Pippen, who's
was
not
your
doing
name on
scenes,
it?
but she's on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
She's just doing teasy
We gotta
stuff
tell
and
that
photos,
story.
but she's famous.
Which story?
When I signed up that girl at the bar next door for OnlyFans,
God.
and
Were you getting on the affiliate program?
that's how I made my money.
Yeah, I
He
knew
was
it.
like
I knew
sucking-
it. And then they cut you off because they limited how much money.
Yeah, I was
you
so
give
furious.
Everyone. I had a friend that was bringing in 120 a year. There was another guy in the business bringing in 100 a month, 100,000 a month,
Yeah.
just
Being an
off of all the
Affiliate
referrals.
links.
Not doing any
'Cause They were
work.
giving
Nope.
5% flat at one
And they
time.
changed it. And the week they changed it was my birthday. And the next week you called me and offered me a job. I was like, thank God,
God.
because I am going to be broke
So
soon.
OnlyFans takes 20. So what they were doing is they were giving 5 and they were keeping 15.
Why? I don't even get why you were an affiliate. Like you're not doing anything.
No, I made-
She just because they needed people to make content. It was up to us to go out. I was an affiliate too.
So I made
it
a
bummed
link.
me out as well.
So
You
it
put
was
a
a-
link.
it was a multi-level.
Yes,
It was,
pyramid
yeah.
is best. Best.
Finest pyramid
they
model.
stepped on our fucking pyramid a big way.
I could have lived up that shit forever.
many
Just made
people could've.
music and just chilled and like.
and you know what else? It
me a
motivated
fucking
you.
Whoa.
It motivated you to make sure that the person you referred was creating
Was
a lot of
killing it.
content because you knew by your monthly check from their 5%, how well they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be like text me like, "Yo, you slacking on
Babe,
your OF?
why are you still
So
in
no
bed?
videos,
Yeah.
huh? Okay,
Why are
is
you
that where
still
we're
asleep?
at?
I only got
like-
$7,000 this month. Hurry it up.
Put out a fucking video.
Daddy wants a new
And
Louis bag.
when I was signing up, of course, I let my best friend Christian be my affiliate because I knew he was doing it for other girls, even though I could have just signed up on my own. Of course, I want my friend to get the 5%. So we put the money aside for like travel and like I'm not really letting you keep this money. We're gonna do shit
Yeah,
with
recycle it.
And so he would stay on me as well. He would be like, okay, you had a good month
I'm
this
gonna
month.
need a shower
Yeah.
video this
Yeah.
month. I need you to get off your ass
Get
and
off
get in
your
the
ass.
shower,
But then they
Lisa.
got greedy.
They just, but look, it is a lot of cost to have the technology they have to make sure that they're not doing what Pornhub did by allowing people to post other people's content in the form of like revenge porn. Or they spend a ton of, we're on facial recognition now. So every couple of months it'll lock you out of your
I
account.
love
until
how
you do.
I love how the porn industry has basically pushed every tech advance.
Yes.
Like that people know of. Like if you like VR, it started in porn.
Yes, it
Do you
did.
like bigger bandwidth and
Well,
bigger
the reason-
streaming video
So
speed?
crazy.
It's all comes from porn.
Yeah, the reason Blu-ray took off over
Yes.
HD DVD was because porn got
I
on
fell
Blu-ray.
for Blu-ray.
Yeah, on Blu-ray, not HD
Do you,
DVD.
do you have any of your old VHS tapes?
I don't. I got rid of everything when I
could've
went
gone
through
on
minimalism.
Garage Porn
But I
Garage.
sold it all. Are you kidding me? Like, it's not like I didn't
right. Yeah, it
was
throw
that
anything
porn
away.
garage.
Can you still find like a Lisa Ann? Was it the Cowboys too?
Dirty Western too. You can
Dirty-
find all those VHSs still. There's people that sell them on eBay. There's people that collect them. There's people that live
that.
off the grid and have a VCR.
I would
don't
love one
have
of
the
your
internet.
old VHS tapes with the fuzzy hair with a
Oh my
signature.
god, I looked so much taller. I looked so much taller with
You
that
had that
thick hair.
you had like Jersey hair.
That
They did
hair
us-
was
They did
fire.
us right, Mama.
You
They
had
did
that.
us
Can we
right.
do your hair like that tomorrow
we
for
can. We can.
Amazing.
Mine too.
I brought the time curler. Do you know that's the one where you
Yep.
put your hair and you push it forward?
Yep.
I also brought my my Dyson Airwrap, but I didn't bring the curl things. I just brought the brush and the other. I love that thing. 'Cause that
Can we
thing's
bring
sick
back a
too.
diffuser?
I do have one of those. I didn't bring it. There's a lot. When you're going to shoot content, you got to have a lot of products and stuff with you. But yeah, we'll do.
true.
Big hair was everything. But I think OnlyFans has really allowed people to creators to understand what it takes to produce content.
yeah.
And so they realize it's kind of a vacation when they go on set and work for somebody else because they don't have to worry about the paperwork.
Right,
They don't have
right.
to worry about anything. They get to just perform.
Creating content's hard. Like
is fucking
any
hard
kind
work.
of content. Like I think people look at people who have big followings and like even us with our pod. Like it took us years to get to this point to have the money to be able to afford the equipment, to afford Matt, to afford.
To manage the content,
Is nuts.
to label everything properly, to folder it, to put it on a backup hard drive. Like this is all time consuming stuff. You got to want to get off your computer. You don't want that heavy shit on your computer. Like once a week, you're doing complete maintenance on, okay, these are all the clips, everything's labeled. It's a lot of work, a lot of work.
What was I going to ask? Did you ever work with Rocco?
So I worked with Rocco in the early 90s for a magazine shoot. And at the time,
What's he like in real life?
we just did a trip to Turkey together during the
did you?
pandemic.
Is
We
he a
shot
cool dude?
series. He's a great man. He's a great man. His wife's a lovely woman. I love them both so much. But in the 90s, Rocco was the first hella intelligent performer in the
Really?
industry.
He doesn't seem intelligent.
He's brilliant.
Really?
He's brilliant. He,
Brilliant how? Just in
he
his, like-
owned his international name. He was the first person to register and trademark his name. So he owned all of the international
Italian?
rights to his product. So I was with Metro Home Video at the time. That's who my contract was with. And I wanted to shoot a scene with Rocco, and Metro said, we won't shoot with him because he won't let us sell in his foreign rights without giving him money. And we don't do that for anybody because my boss was Italian Kenny and he wasn't going to play that game. And Rocco wouldn't bend because Rocco looked at it like, yo, if you're going to sell my shit internationally, I'm getting a kickback.
Right.
So he was the first performer ever getting commissions from companies, getting long-term money. So Suze Randall put us together for a magazine shoot. Now, during magazine shoots back there could be no insertion, there could be no sex, but she would have to relight the room and set things back up because we were shooting on film. There was no retouching. Everything was very different. And so in order to keep him hard, I said to her, look, in order for him to like help him keep his edge, can we have sex off camera? And she said, yeah, if you let me put at the time a video camera, camcorder on the floor and shoot it for whatever, down the road. We had no idea what we were going to do with it.
Fun.
I loved her so much.
That's his wife.
No, this is Suze Randall, the legendary photographer, who her daughter is now a legendary photographer. I just got to spend time with them in Los Angeles 2 weeks ago.
Did you, in that moment, were you attracted to Rocco? Did you want to have sex with him?
I so wanted to have sex with him. So wanted to have sex with him. Now, mind you, he wasn't as graphic in the 90s. Nobody was. There were
Right.
laws against shooting the kind of stuff.
Do you
that
think he
shot.
likes to shoot that graphic stuff?
I think as a male performer, what I've learned is when they stay in the business for too long, they get desensitized and they have to themselves keep pushing the envelope to
Makes
continue to get hard. Like their regular standard boy-girl scene where you're making out and having 3 or 4 position sex just doesn't do it for you anymore. And later in my career, after I came back in 2005, he was shooting for Evil Angel, and I just remember looking at his stuff and being like, I love you so much, and I'm so glad we did that shoot together, but this is too off-brand for me. I would
Right.
never want my head in a toilet. It's just not what I do. I don't want to be choked, and all of these things. But he's come full circle and realized that there's a responsibility that he has now to.
Because he owns his own production company.
He
now.
does. He does.
And it's a big one.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
And he owns a ton of property in Hungary where he rents locations to movie producers and everything else. So we went to Turkey in December of 2020 during the pandemic to shoot the first ever sexual health series for Durex.
Wow.
Durex is now selling condoms, and me and Rocco are on life-size cardboard cutouts in all the stores.
Awesome.
And we did this music video about how what you see in porn isn't real.
Right.
We did a ton of interviews, and if you watch his Netflix documentary, he talks about when it hit him that what he did was so graphic and it was affecting his sons.
Yeah,
His
I remember
son-
that. I watched that documentary.
Dark, right? It was really dark. It was
kinda
sad.
It was kind of hard to watch.
It was sad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But he's a great man. His wife is a lovely, like I look at him and I'm like, your life is so different than mine because you have Rosa. Like if I could ever have a Rosa, like she's so solid and she's just fucking gorgeous.
Does he do
And she-
yoga all the time?
She never shot
wow.
scenes. She was never in the industry.
Wow.
She does manage some of his business,
What a
maybe
hell of a
interviews,
woman.
whatever. She's a fucking boss.
Rock
I mean,
star.
a total rock star woman.
Does he still perform?
He stepped a bit away from performing, but he's now running these schools where he's helping young performers get into the industry. But he's so soft and mild in real life that it's almost hard for me to even know that he shot really aggressive scenes. But that was
Yeah.
what he was into, and I've seen it with a lot of men. Like I've seen it with male performers. Like when I first started working with James Dean when he was 18. He was just a Jewish kid that was just like a dick on a stick, and he was super sweet. Super cool. And then James Dean started getting very aggressive. And then one day during a scene, I looked at him and I said, "We can't work together anymore. It's just we're not on our same sexual
Right,
style. We'll still be
right,
friends,
right.
But like, I don't like what you're doing. I can't stop telling you to stop. I don't want to be choked."
Right. Are there girls who actually enjoy some of that stuff?
I don't know if they truly enjoy it or if they're doing it because they've seen so much of it already.
Right.
Right. And maybe they do enjoy it. But I think there's a safe way to teach people to do it. And I think we should be just putting disclaimers on the videos because
Yeah.
you don't want somebody choking out somebody and killing them by accident.
Well, 'cause it has gotten so, and that's like
You can shut that, bud.
from like a woman that's
cold?
been in like an experience where that's been the scary experience where you're like, I don't want it to go where I think it's gonna go, because that violence, you're like, for me, that freezes me where I'm like, I don't want to be no. Obviously, there's been moments in my sexual life where I'm like, okay, I'm into
Sure.
this. But if that's what is seen as this is what every woman wants, and they want it. That's for a lot of women that I know, me, myself, where you're like, that's a scary point.
I agree.
And it moved so quickly into that.
Because we have created such a thirst for content. The content is so accessible. They're watching endless hours of it that like a movie that, you know, it just gets boring. A TV show just gets boring and you're always upping the ante. And now that it's not, you're going to an adult bookstore on the weekend and showing your ID and taking home a VHS that you've rented that you're going to have to take back. Now it's fed to you on your fucking timeline.
Yeah.
So every guy, every young man is getting desensitized, and then women are believing that this is what they need to do.
Right.
I'm going to stretch.
So the question that I've always wondered, and this was even before we were even planning on meeting you, was how in my life, I'm too tall, so don't wear high heels because you're intimidating. I'm already intimidating. Which I'm like, if I'm intimidating you, like, I don't want to know you anyways.
Right.
As a man.
But you sense it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can feel it. And I've been like men have come up behind me where I'm like, I can fucking see you.
Yeah.
There's a mirror. You're measuring. But in a professional setting, I'm either assumed as his assistant because I obviously can't have a high powered position, or I shouldn't be listened to because I'm a girl. And you can feel that. They don't have to say anything.
Sure.
It's that like,
The energy.
that side look of, I don't need to give you a head on, you don't need my full attention. But that I'm just a person. How have you dealt with going into meetings at Sirius or talking to any production company with going in and saying, I want you to listen to me as me, not based off of what you think or what you've seen?
I don't allow other people's small minds to stunt mine. And when I sense
answer.
that, I will just derail, right? Maybe this wasn't the right meeting to have. Maybe I should just try another one. I'm not going to stop having the meetings. I'm going to keep having the meetings. When I sat with my mainstream agent when I was like 45, 46 years old, and I was in the room with him and his partner and everyone that works there, I was like, listen, you probably won't make much money off of me till I'm in my 50s. Because it's going to take that long for people actually to hear my word and to understand the experience that I have had can be used in many ways, and I could share a lot of advice. And, you know, it's coming to this point now, turning 50 this year, where they're starting to get a lot of calls where people are really serious. Like, we really want to talk to her. We want to set up this Zoom. I didn't chase. So I let people come to me. But in times where people shun me, I've learned it's not about me. It's about them. Whether it's their own perception of what they think porn is about, maybe it's their own, I think a lot of it is their own lack of sex. Like a lot of times you'll see when I make snide comments on YouTube, and when I visit other people's shows, I'm always like, you're only flexing to me that you're kind of jealous of the amount of incredible sex that I've had. Like, you are showing me right now that this is a sex contest and that I've won.
Right.
Like, and I'm sorry, but that's really all you're saying to me with your words. You're putting it out there because you're minimizing me because of what I did in my past. Oh, why should anybody listen to you because you did this for a living? Ironically, you know that I did that for a living,
Right.
so obviously you've watched.
Yeah. So thank you for
And there seems to be some bitterness here. That I've had a better sex life than you have. But, you know, I don't allow other people to limit me. I never, ever had. And I am right where I wanted to be. Even though I took many curves in the road, the fact that at this age, I can still make my own schedule and my own money and travel and see the world. The fact that when you call and say, hey, let's do something, I can say yes. I don't have to go to anybody. Is this going to fuck up my schedule here? I've got a team of people. I have my assistant. I have my photographer. I have a social media team. I have all these people that are working with me that I've delegated some things to that I will communicate with through the day. This personal freedom at this age, that if I want to set an alarm clock, I do. If I don't, I don't, is so gratifying. So there's not a moment of silence or ignoring me that somebody could give me that would kind of take away that joy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have just learned that it's about them. And I quickly move on and I don't get discouraged. Do not carry that meeting into the next meeting. Don't go on the bad date and then assume the next date is going to be bad. Each one is a fresh start, right?
Yep.
Have a fresh start about it because
It's so true because I've taken that one of the first meetings that we had, it was like, are you looking anywhere in my direction? Because I'm talking. And I didn't have the strength then. Like now I'd be like, I'm speaking to you so you can turn. But it was that once that first meeting happened, I'm like, no one's going to listen. I'm never going to. And
don't put that out to the universe. That one guy. And always make it about his penis and his lack of sex in your mind because it makes it funny.
There's something happened to you where you had a tall woman in heels that turned you down.
Do not take blame yourself because it's not on you. You didn't go in there without the intention to communicate with him. But just think about it. Have some empathy. Like, I'll look at a guy and be like, bless his heart.
Poor thing.
Nobody will suck his dick. You know what I mean? Like when guys write shit to me like, how can I listen to a girl that used to take dicks in her ass? I always just write back, I'm so sorry nobody lets you put your dick in their ass. Because that's really what you're saying
We can talk if you want to talk.
We can
I'm
talk.
so sorry.
So in your mind, when you feel ignored, paint that picture. I remember they used to tell you if you were nervous in a meeting to picture everyone naked, all these little hacks. Make that your little hack because it's not about you. Yeah. And move on to the next person and have empathy for the fact that he probably talks to his daughter the same way and the other women that work with him closely.
Yeah, there is no respect there.
That's heat
because
right
it's
there.
true.
Should be a clip.
Think about it. Where you're like,
Clip it.
Everyone's getting this, and you're
5 minutes left?
you're the king of your own world. That's very small.
You are
Very small. Yeah, it's
that's heat right there.
It was always heels, and that made me very afraid to ever like dress nice because you're too tall. If you were high heels, then you tower men and they're going to feel intimidated. I'm like, oh, I didn't want to fucking be this tall, but I really like these heels. So I kind of want to wear them. But it was like that you shrink. And then it comes to like voicing your opinion. And then everything just trickles down from there.
I remember hearing that growing up when my mom was dating because my mom's 5'11", almost 5'12". She's a tall woman. And she would wear boots, and I remember the 70s, 80s style, and she'd be going out with her friends in boots, and she'd wear a small heel. And she was very fussy about her shoes, too. Pointy shoes made her feet look too big. But she would tell me how it was much harder to date as a tall woman.
Yeah.
Much harder.
Yeah. And you know what's weird, too, is it's always small. Guys that are like either my height exactly or a little under, that's the attention. I'm like,
look at Wags.
The guy that's 6'7"?
Look at Wags
like,
right now. You guys still watch Billions, right?
Yeah.
How about Wags' hot girlfriend? She's taller
babe.
than him.
Yeah.
She's a
He doesn't
babe.
give a
He's
fuck.
probably getting rid of his secrets. I love that show so much.
It's gone downhill a bit with Axelrod being gone. Like he was such a strong character.
But you know where they're making up for it? By bringing in so many different one-offs. Like last week, they had Gabby Reese come in. She was training
Fucking
Mike
legend.
and running Legend.
God, I love
they
her.
had Megan Rapinoe. How do you pronounce her last name? Rapinoe.
I think it's Rapinoe.
Come in the Olympics coaching talk with Wendy. So I think they're doing a great job with casting.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about that show is the casting.
Yeah.
They pick such.
Have you seen Succession?
I fucking love Wendy.
I got to fall into
Jesus, I love
Succession. I'm saving it for a girlfriend who's going to be visiting me in the city, and she wants us to watch it together.
It is.
It's better than Billions.
Like we're going to binge, just watch and have drinks, and I'll
so
cook.
jealous. I'm so jealous.
It is.
I'm a virgin of Succession.
I'm so sorry.
What is your last
I can't
question,
wait
Chris?
for you to go with that.
Historical figure you'd have sex with. Most want to have sex with.
Dead or alive? Dead?
No, I want dead.
Like historical figure, like
Hemingway, Abraham Lincoln, Cassius Clay.
Stuart Little.
I know who mine was. I know who mine is.
who's yours? Marilyn Monroe,
I would
right?
do Marilyn
Of
Monroe
course.
because I like curves. I liked her style. She was, again, talk about someone who owned her shit. She owned it so hard and it was so sexy. I think Sophia Loren, although she's still alive.
God.
Oh, God.
Stunner for her age,
Yeah,
too.
dude.
Stunner.
I think those two. I think Marilyn Monroe probably was the first one that came to my mind.
I mean, Frank Sinatra would come to all of our minds because of the life that, he
eyes.
lived.
Just swoon you after sex or
But
before.
Marilyn
Yeah.
Monroe, I was just reading an interview with a photographer that worked with her years ago, and he said the greatest thing about shooting her was the fact that you didn't have to do anything. You just let the camera go, and the camera just loved her so much, and she loved the camera so
Yeah.
much. And that it was just a masterpiece every time. He would just be so excited to look at the film, and he had to develop them back then, the dip process, the hang, and it was like hours of excitement because he's like, you could just put a camera down on auto shutter, and she would just
She was
love
so
that
hot.
camera.
I loved how curvy she was too. Like
She
she's just a
just-
woman.
Yeah, she broke every.
What about you?
Or Betty Page, maybe.
We'll come back to Lisa. Who would you sleep with? Historical figure.
I don't know.
Gandhi.
I'm gonna pass on that.
Young Betty White.
I'd fuck Betty
Oh,
White.
that's a
I would
heater,
have fucked
bro.
Betty White for sure.
She'd probably be funny.
Yeah.
Could be girl or guy.
She just passed.
Is it too
She's a
soon?
legend. God. I don't know.
So sad.
I feel
I
like I
know.
would have. He's not like
Sinatra's a
too
good one. Oh,
historical.
we already said Sinatra.
I would have loved to at least give it a shot with Hunter S. Thompson.
Okay, I like that one. That's a good one.
That is good.
He would have been wild. I
Yeah,
bet.
I'm
Either
just-
wild or terrible. It would
Because
have
I
been
feel like we would
so
have been
weird.
like drinking, smoking,
I
shooting
think-
guns, and then fucking.
outside too.
Yeah.
Brought up Hemingway, who had an STD issue. Am I correct?
Did he?
That's why I went mentally
Syphilis,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Same with Van Gogh. Because of my sexual STI training and everything I know in the business and learning the history and everything, I look back at all. I'm like, everybody in the past
They all
had
had one.
something, and it was not
Yeah.
treatable or curable back then. So I'm like tagging their STD. Like I'm like on AIM in my mind where you register the talent's name and see if their test is good or not. I'm looking at all these legends from the past. I'm like, well, he had that. And he had that.
Hemingway, I think, would have been interesting.
I feel like there's
Have you ever
probably-
visited the Hemingway house in Key West?
I have not. I'm a huge Hemingway
All
fan.
the four-toed cats.
Yes.
I've been to all the places that he hung out in Paris.
Definitely go to the Hemingway house. It's really cool. It's a great tour.
Is it the bar or his actual house?
It's his actual house.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a million cats.
Well, Lisa Ann, thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
have a whole weekend planned with you, and I can't wait. We have,
just-
Lisa Ann and I have a new cooking show. It's coming
Yeah.
out on the Travel Channel.
coming out?
God, I can't
It'll be out this fall on.
I brought some special attire for that
Big
cooking show.
hair.
I'm not going to release that yet, but you are going to love what I'm going to
Dope.
wear for the
If there's
cooking
not
show.
big hair, I'm out.
the goat.
It's called Only Pans.
Oh my God! The heaters
Let's
today.
end on that. Brick, cue the music. Only
heaters.
pans.
Wow, I know your next business venture.
Only pans. That is. You can make the
Only
logo.
pans. Lisa Ann.
On Only
Hey.
Pans.
No, I brought a Sarah Palin for President T-shirt.
You did.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank
Oh my God.
This is
Only
my number
Pans?
one selling
What
beat online.
if there was all porn stars doing cooking shows? It was OnlyFans.